'cause I'm a wheel-born baby. Always burn down the road. Yeah, I'm a wheel-born baby. Always burning down the road. I'm a wheel-born baby. This life never gets old. Come on, wheel burners, yeah, burn with me. Come on, wheel burners, yeah, burn with me. Oh, take a ride now on Wheelburner Express. Yeah, Wheelburner Express, baby.
Gonna roll up the sleeves for this one. You might have to put some thinking. You might have to change hats, put the other thinking cap on. We're gonna talk about some money today. How you're making it, what you're doing with it, or how you're generating it. Not necessarily how you're making it. You don't make money in trucking. You generate your truck generates money. If you're an owner operator, if you're a company driver, then of course you're making money because you're on a salary or you're on a per mile or you're whatever. But if you're an owner operator, you're not out there making money, you're generating money, and then you're doing the best you can to try to hang on to as much of it as you can. So, damn it, you know what? It's fall here. We're into fall in Alberta, and although it's my favorite season, it is like I don't mind summer. I'm not a hot guy. I don't like to be too overly hot. I'm not a winter guy, although I do okay out in the cold. I'm not bad, but spring, I could take it or leave it. But fall, I like. And it's not just okay, you got the leaves falling off the trees, you got the nice little blah, blah, blah. It's the smell. Um, Victoria and I were driving yesterday. Actually, I picked her up at work, and I was coming home. We were coming home, and you noticed when across the road, some leaves were blowing across the road, and obviously we haven't seen that in a while. And it was really, really, really cool. It's because obviously we haven't seen it since last season. But then when you get out of the car, especially like on a morning like today, where it's around freezing, right? It's about 32, or it's about 0 for me, or 32 for the US. Um, it's crisp, and there's no humidity, so it's a crisp air this morning, and you can smell it. You know what I'm talking about? You can smell that Christmas. You can smell Christmas. You can smell the crispness. I'll get the mouth working. Hey, Dodie, how are you, sweetheart? So that's what it was kind of cool this morning. It was like, took the dog out for a walk. Took Victoria to work, came back, took the dog out for a walk, puddled around on the computer here for a bit, and then decided to do this. But taking the dog for a walk, it was quite nice sitting there or just walking around, and you get that smell. I can't explain the smell. What's going on, Fraser Valley? I can't explain it. It's like an earthy smell. It's like an earthy smell. I don't know how else to describe it to you. It gives you the same sensation as when you walk up on a really nice, well lit, burning campfire. You get that nice. You get the first sensations of that smell, and which I love. I love a good campfire. I absolutely love it. I will I will take a coffee or I'll take a couple of drinks, and I can sit there and smoke 2 cigars in an evening just sitting by a campfire, and it doesn't matter what the temperature is. It could be -10. I will sit beside a campfire. I love it, and I love the smell, and it's one of those things I used to love doing in the fall, right? A good night, a nice crisp night. The stars are out. You got a clear sky. You got a nice campfire going. Love it. Absolutely love it. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with this morning. Got a really nice morning, clear sky. The stars were all out. It was dark while I was walking the dog, but just the air and the taste and the smell. It was like second to none. Loved, absolutely love it. Devash, I want to learn English, but I haven't learned that much yet. Give me some tips. Keep talking. Listen to everybody else and just keep talking. Take English lessons. I'm probably the wrong guy in the world to ever give anybody advice about learning a language or learning English, because I can barely speak the goddamn language myself most of the time. English is like a second and third language to me. What comes out of my mouth isn't necessarily all English all the time. Trust me. But it's like anything. It's like anything. If you immerse yourself in it, go learn English. If you want to learn English, depending on where you are or where you live in, if you're in Canada, if you're in the US, both pretty much speak English, and just immerse yourself in it, right? The more you listen to it, the more people are talking to you in English and you're forced to interact, eventually you'll pick it up. It's like anything. You can, same with Spanish or French or German or Italian, whatever. If I was to move, okay, you're from India. So if I was to move to India, I can't speak a single drop, a single lick of any of the dialects over in India. But if I was to move there and say live there, or say I had to go over there for business and it was a 1-year term contract or something, and I was going to be in India for a year, um, I'd have to learn the language, and probably the fastest way to learn it, Dev, would be to just immerse myself in it. People are going to talk to me, and yeah, I'm gonna be a little slow. It's like I'm going to ask you to repeat yourself probably 26 times or translate or whatever like that. But the more you do it, you'll pick it up. I'm Canadian, so I speak English, but we're a bilingual country. We have 2 official languages, French and English. I can't speak French worth a damn. I can understand a good portion of it. If somebody's speaking French, or if 2 people over there are talking French, I can pick up the gist of the conversation of what they're saying. But I couldn't communicate effectively back and forth, short of, I can count to 100 in French, and I can ask, where's the bathroom? I can ask, simple stuff that I've had to do only through my trucking career, because I've spent a lot of time in Quebec, but I couldn't do it. But if I was to move to, say, Montreal, and how I would have no choice, well, then, I guarantee you within a couple of months, my French would be much more proficient. So it's the same from you. If you're going to move if you're from India, or if you're in India and you want to learn English, find out where all the English people are in India and start talking to them. And if you're already here in Canada, or if you're in the US, you've got no choice. You're going to be immersed in it. But for God's sakes, whatever you do, there he is there, Tyke Truckin'. Do not listen to Tyke Truckin' to learn English. Okay. You will learn how to swear really well. And you'll learn all of the slang and the shortcuts, which even I don't have a clue when he's talking sometimes. But don't ask Tyke how to speak English. And he's from England. He's not from England. He lives in England. Sorry, Dodie, what's that? Waiting to get unloaded here for a few minutes. All right, sweetheart. You got to take off. Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Thanks for the view. Thanks for your time. Good luck with your offload. Don't let nothing go wrong. Don't let nothing fall off that trailer, babe. It will suck balls. I've had it happen. And be careful, Dodie. Dodie, I don't know if anybody follows Dodie's page, her channel, but she's a flatbed trucker, and she's about this tall. Okay, literally like this tall. I could pick her up in my hand, in like one hand, and literally pick her up and just carry her around as if I was carrying around my dog or something. She's just a tiny wee thing like that. And it's funny that, I met Dodie, and we went for we went for dinner, and actually we didn't go for dinner. She had dinner, And it was funny as hell that I took a picture of her, and I don't think she even came chest high on me. And here she is out there swinging, doing flatbed. Here she is out there, she's got her own truck. She's got the Trigger, her beautiful Peterbilt 389 or 379 Peterbilt. She's got her own trailer, her own flatbed trailer. And I've had to ask numerous times, how do you get those goddamn straps so tight? She doesn't weigh about 100 pounds. It can't be like, even after a good meal, she can't weigh 100 pounds. And yet you look at her trailer and you look at her loads, you could play like those straps. You can go boing on one of her straps. It sounds like a banjo string. It's so I've always wondered how she does that. She must, like, I don't know, when she gets out of the truck, what are you doing? Wearing a lead belt? You got lead undies? I don't know. I don't have a clue. Dev got it. All right. Tracy Rando, good to see you. How are you? Long time. I haven't seen you around in a long time. Whoa, look at that. Look who walked through the door. Fahoodism, good to see you. What do you look for in a man? Um, if you're talking on an intimate level, nothing. I'm not interested. Thank you very much. If you're talking about like in a man, like when for example, like when one of my daughters presents a boyfriend or a spouse or a mate or something like that for the first time, what am I looking for? First thing, ask any one of my kids, and they warn every single guy that they ever put in front of me. The first thing I'm looking for is a good firm handshake. I will judge you for the rest of your life based on that first handshake. If you hand me a wet noodle, like one of these handshakes, how you doing? My opinion of you, you're starting in the basement. Okay, so if you're going to shake my hand, the first thing I'm looking for in a man is I'm looking for your handshake. Second thing I'm looking for is I'm looking for good eye contact. Look me in the eye. You want to talk to me? Look me in the eye. If you're one of those people that sits there and you walk around and you talk, you're standing there talking to me and you're looking down at your shoes, you're looking down at my shoes, and you're not looking at me. Well, what makes you think I want to? You don't have my attention. I'm not listening to you. So that's another thing. A good firm handshake and good eye contact. And other than that, you kind of take it from there, right? You base a man on what he is. You base a man on his character, his word, his past. His past is, people say, "Oh, I don't want to be judged on my past." Well, that's not true to everybody. I don't necessarily want to be judged on all of my past, but I know for a fact that, if there's somebody that I'm meeting new and they know more, they know something about me, I hopefully is I'm being judged on my merits and not on my downside. So what do you, Kyle D, good to see you. Busy trying to find a decent company as an owner op. Where are you, man? Where are you? I don't know where you are. I'd like to help you out. There's a lot of if you're a Canadian, there's a lot of good companies up in Canada that will take you on as owner operators. But none of them are the big ones, right? There's no big time, big name companies up here. Like I wouldn't go on as an owner operator, say with TransX or with Challenger or with TFI Transforce. But Transforce owns probably, I think Transforce is now the largest trucking company in North America now, with all its subsidiaries. Transforce owns, I don't know. I don't know what the number is. I think the last time I looked at it, it was over 25 different trucking companies. So if you took them all together and you put them all together, Transforce is just a goddamn monster in the trucking industry, in the trucking business. You will not make money there. You'll be fighting for every mile, and you'll be fighting tooth and nail for every dollar you make. Same with like companies like TransX. And I myself personally, I've always tried to stick to smaller companies. When I was driving, I always wanted probably, the last fleet I came out of, there was 40 trucks. 40 trucks. That was all there was. And even then that came down. That size of that came down. It shrunk down with market and economy and shit like that. I think the biggest company I was ever with was TransX or DeckX. It's a same company, right? It's all the same thing. And at that time, I think they were around 1,500 trucks. Now that's not big for US, but that's a bigger trucker company for Canada. Myself personally, I try to stick somewhere between 25 and 100 trucks. If you're in there, then you've got a decent shot. You're not fighting with 1,500 or 1,499 other guys trying to make a dollar for freight. So that's just kind of what I do. So find those companies. And hopefully you're looking at all the right things while you're trying to find that company. And here's the thing you gotta realize as an owner operator, okay? When you go and say you make that initial phone call and the phone call goes in, and what's the first thing they do is they hook you up with a recruiter. You get the recruiter, and you might get, Fred the recruiter. He's going to start right off the bat. He's going to start selling. Remember, recruiters are nothing but salesmen. They're nothing but salesmen. They're trying to sell you a seat, or they're trying to sell you a position to get a seat and to get that ride going to start generating them money. So, okay, sorry, I just saw your comment, but let me finish what I'm saying here. So what I would always do, and it took me a few times to learn how to do it. And what I would do is I would make a simple list of questions and things that I require or that I would look for. So let's just say we're going to use, I don't know what trucking company you want to use. If you're in Toronto, so let's use ET Transport, right? So before I went into ET Transport, I spoke to the recruiter. Her name at that time was Jennifer, and did the pleasantry chit chat, and then made an appointment to come in and go face to face. But before I went in, the day before, I went to their yard and I walked around their yard and checked out their equipment. Like, I have my own truck, but I'm going to be pulling their trailers. So I walked around and checked out their equipment. I was looking at all their trailers, their flatbeds, their roll tights, their vans, their reefers. What are the condition? Walk around, check the tires, stick your head between the tires, look up, look under the frames, open, if it's an empty trailer, open the door. Check out the ways that they're maintaining their equipment. If it's a company that's maintaining their equipment, okay, move forward, right? Then I went to the shop. I walked right into the shop. These guys didn't know me from Adam. I walked right into the shop. Luckily, the guy that run the shop, his name was Alex, super great guy, and answered any questions. But it's not the questions I wanted answered from Alex. It's what I could see. Is there shit laying all over the floor? Is there tools here? Is there, busted parts and shit just laying everywhere? Or do you walk in? Are the bays organized? Is everything clean? Is that, that kind of thing will tell you a lot about the people that are running the company, because these guys here in the shop have to adhere to certain rules and regulations, I guess, that the company's going to put in place. The company doesn't want, what the fuck is that? The company doesn't want to walk out and see that kind of shit, especially if it's an owned company. ET Transport is not a corporate company. It's not a big, they don't have shares, they don't have stocks. They're owned by two guys. So, these two guys have an idea of how they want their company run. And you know what? This is what they're going to put in place to make sure that, it gets done. So look at the shop. And then after you look at the shop, look at the yard itself. Generally, just walk around the yard. Is there trash? Is there shit? Is there garbage? I would walk out the minute, if I was in any yard, whether it be, ETs or Transacs or KBDs or anybody's yard. If the minute I see a piss bottle on the ground, I'm gone. Forget it. That's not happening. And then once you've done that, you're going to go in and do your initial talk, right? And they're gonna they want to interview you to work there. Well, flip that around, right? Usually it would take me about 2 or 3 minutes to let them go through their spiel, and then flip that around and you interview them, right? And if the first question you're asking is how much money I'm going to make as an owner operator, then you're asking the wrong question. That's not the first thing. That shouldn't be the most important thing. Okay. Myself personally, I would take less money per mile. I would take, let's just say this company over here is offering me $1.60 a mile, and this company over here is offering me $1.52 a mile. But this $1.60 a mile, their lanes suck. It's all hills. I'm going to burn a lot of fuel. I'm going to be out for 4 or 5 weeks at a time. I might, they don't have their own customers. They're relying on the load board for all of their freight. So that tells me a lot. That tells me that I'm probably going to be doing a lot of sitting around. I'm probably not going to be doing, long miles. I'm not going to be doing, I have an idea in my head of what I want and what I require for money. So, and I don't mean money per mile. I mean money to sustain, right? So I want, and I know exactly how many miles a week I need to drive to get that. So, and they're all going to promise you 3,000 miles a week. It doesn't matter what company you go to. Oh yeah, 2,500 to 3,000, no problem. We can do that. We'll make sure you get that. That's all bullshit. Anybody that's been in this business more than 7 minutes knows that that's a lie right there. But you can figure it out by simply asking the questions. Okay, I don't have to ask you how many miles a week where do we go? Where's the primary? If you're running East Coast, then you're not running long miles, right? If you're running, say you're running out of Toronto, like say you are, if you're running out of Toronto or Montreal and you're running the East Coast, well, then you're probably doing Jersey, New York City, Baltimore, probably down maybe into a little bit of northern South Carolina. You're going to be down on that coast. You're going to be in that whole area there. So those aren't long miles. They are at times harder miles, and there's a lot of tolls on there. So you look at that. So do you want to do that and burn fuel on hills and tolls? Or do you want to take maybe longer miles, find a company that's doing, we're going to give you longer miles. And this is where our primary, we have customers that run regular to Texas, Arizona, California, Washington State, North South Dakota, Nebraska. Like that's the area of the country that myself personally, I used to love to run. I wanted to run the Midwest just primarily because it's longer miles and it's flat. And from a business standpoint, I'm burning the least amount of fuel. The speed limits are also a lot higher. You get out into certain areas, the speed limits are 70, some places 75 mile an hour. I had a truck that would do that. So, and it was geared for it. So you can get out there and you can open up your legs and run it a little better. So you flip it around. Don't let them interview you. You interview them and have the list of all the questions that you want answered. And then at the end, you talk money, because money is not the end all be all. Like I said, I will take less money per mile if I'm guaranteed that I'm going to, if I'm more assured that I'm going to run, 28 to 3,200 miles a week. You can pay me $1.80 a mile, but if I'm only doing 1,800 to 2,200 miles a week, that's not cool the way it works. Correct Midwest. That's where I would be. Brian has a net worth of millions. Man, if Jason, if I had your money, I'd burn mine. Okay. If it took a nickel to get around the world, I couldn't get out of sight, brother. Are you banned? Nope. Well, trucks are it, and the reason I've got low numbers right now, Jay, is that I took a strike last week. So it's going to be like this for a little while until the algorithm's not going out, nothing's going out, and I took YouTube threw a strike at me, and you know what? If you know anything about YouTube, when you take a strike, they castrate your channel. And there's a time limit on it, and then after that they lift the ban and you'll go back to business as usual. So are we talking trucking? Yeah, let's talk trucking. Do I have a net worth of millions? Fuck no. Do I have do I have $1 million worth of knowledge? Probably. And if I don't have the knowledge, I can find somebody else who does. What's going on, Damien? Good to see you. Don't gotta worry about fuel miles per hour if you've got enough money. Well, Sean, that's called leaving money on the table, right? Just because you're making more money, why would you go, well, I don't give a shit about fuel mileage? That's silly. That's not good business, dude. As an owner operator, that's not good business. I made more money on my fuel than almost anything else. You got your cents per mile or you got your rate. But I always made money on my fuel because I always maintained my truck to the best of my ability and financially the best I could. But I also drove responsibly. I didn't drive with my foot into it all the time. If the speed limit is 65 mile an hour, I'm doing 63 and a half, 64 miles an hour with the cruise control on. I'm letting that truck do all the work. I'm letting the computer do all the work. I'm milking that truck and that engine and that whole system. I'm milking it for every penny I can get. Why? Because like I've said to you before, I may be going up Fancy Gap, right? I'll be going up Fancy Gap with 40,000 pounds or 45,000 pounds on, and you can go up Fancy Gap with 45,000 pounds on. The guy who gets to the top of that hill first doesn't win the race. It's the guy at the top of that hill with the most money in his pocket, meaning fuel, that wins the race. If you average that out, never mind on a daily basis, average that out, say over a week or over a month, and then over the year, the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that you are going to save is worth it. So just because I'm making, and I've been in that position where I've done, I came off working heavy haul, and I was, those loads that I was pulling, you guys saw me pulling with those ingots, those loads were 100,000 pounds. But that doesn't mean that I was just going, oh, well, fuck, I'm making a premium rate, which I was making a very premium rate to pull those. It doesn't mean that I automatically go, well, fuck it, I don't have to worry about fuel mileage. You know what? Just because there's 100,000 pounds, I'm driving that truck responsibly. I'm keeping it, the RPMs where they should be. I'm using the cruise control. I'm letting the computer do the work. And you know what? Am I getting 9 miles per gallon pulling 100, pulling 100,000 pound load? No, but I'm not getting 5 miles per gallon either. I was probably averaging somewhere between 6.8 and 7.2. Not probably. I was averaging between 6.8 and 7.2 miles per gallon with 100,000 pounds on my trailer. That's money, man. That's money. And guys don't get that. They just want to, well, I'm making $5 a mile. I don't give a shit how much fuel is. If you're making $5 a mile and you don't give a shit how much fuel is, you're throwing money away. You're leaving it out on the table. And guys like me, I'm going to come along and I'm going to pick it up. If you want to leave money on the table, I'm going to come grab it and take it away from you because I'm hungry and because fuel pays. Fuel makes money. When anytime my truck would run over 8 miles or 8.5 miles per gallon, I was actually generating money on my fucking fuel because my fuel bill was less every week than the fuel surcharge that I collected. So my fuel surcharge they were paying me to offset the fuel was actually more than my fuel bill. So just as an example, if my fuel surcharge was $1,800 that week, my fuel bill was $1,200. I actually made $700 on my fuel, pulling 100,000 pounds, doing heavy haul or heavy application. So why would I throw that money away? Why would I give away $700 a week? Right? That's $2,800 a month. That's another truck payment, right? You can pay for another truck with $2,800 a month. So that's I'm not going to say that that's true. That's not true. Just because you're making buku money doesn't mean that you throw fuel mileage, you throw your fuel costs out the window. Same with your maintenance. Got to worry about fuel. Yeah. Crack Midwest all day. Yeah, got it. Love the Midwest. Morning, Quinn. Good to see you, brother. How are you? Why'd you take a strike? Doing porn like James Best? Joey, no. Didn't take a strike on porn. I probably wouldn't have taken the strike if it was porn. They'd have just taken the channel down. How many channels has Best burned down? What, 4? Is he on his 5th channel? Something like that? 4 or 5 channels. He's burned down. No, I took a strike because I was talking about religion, which be honest with you, I really have no use for. But I was talking about religion, and I was just talking about, fuck whatever. And I was being not pat. I'm trying to be correct about how I say this, but I was talking about religion, and I was going off on religion, and I was using some very, very, very colorful language describing the religion and my thoughts and my feeling towards religion, and YouTube just shut the stream off, killed the stream in midstream. I took a strike, and then I was able to start another stream, but it was shit. So now I've taken a strike, and YouTube's not having. Meanwhile, you can go on YouTube anywhere and see a video of Charlie Kirk getting shot. How is that? How is that? I'm going to do the lease purchase with them. The finance company is wasting the finance company wasting time. The lease purchase. This is how I feel about lease purchase. Okay, it is an option, but make it your last option. Make it your last option. Okay, especially if you're doing it with a larger company. I noticed that you said you were doing something. I'm always on strike. There's Pat. He's always calling me the lazy Canadian. I call him the fat lazy German. Anyway, if you're doing a lease to own option, or you're doing the lease company option, use that as your last option. Make it your last option. Do not you do that one out the gate, because it's the easiest, right? Usually they don't require a lot of a down payment. You're usually anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000, or maybe zero as your down payment. And then, it'll break out. I think the ones that I know about, I think ETs are 3 years. I think TransX has a 3 year and a 4 year, or something like that. But you got to remember, when you do this with a lot of these companies, they're not handing you a brand new truck. They're handing you a truck. And this is very, very common around here. They're handing you a truck that is already been used. That basically, let's just say it's 2025. A lot of the carriers around here only run their trucks for 3 years, then flip them, right? And then replace their fleets after every 3 years. If they do it in piecemeal, they don't replace 100 trucks every 3 years, right? They stagger it out so that, this year they're replacing 20, next year they're replacing 20. Every year they're replacing 20 to keep them at the 100. But what they're doing is, that truck that is now 3 years old, or maybe 4 years old, that truck that's 3 years old, what they will do is they will put that out there as a lease option for people. And if nobody bites on it, then they get rid of it and they turn it off. But if somebody like you comes along and they bite on that, you're now driving a 3-year-old truck, probably close to 700,000 kilometers on it, maybe a little bit of warranty left on it. If it's ET that you're looking at going, I know that their trucks come with the factory warranty, and I know that Ronin over there, I know that they purchase the extended warranty in the full jam, right? They spend the money and they get the full jam warranties over there. So if you're looking at ET, that's fine. But you're going to be taking that truck, and at the end of the day, it's not yours. People, there's always the old argument of people saying, well, if as a lease operator, I'm technically an owner operator. Well, I guess maybe you are, because you're incurring all the expenses for that truck, all of the fuel, all of the insurance, the plates, the stickers, the everything that comes with that truck. Now, in ET's case, you don't pay for you don't pay. I don't think you pay insurance. You don't pay for the plates. You don't pay for the stickers. You don't pay for the decals. You pay a couple odds and ends, and then you pay your fuel and you pay your truck payment. But you can't take that truck if after 7 or 8 months, or say a year, you've paid a year into a 3-year lease and you're not happy, and you've got a really good opportunity over here. Let's say Wheelburner Express wants to hire you and give you a real good opportunity, and you can make this amount of money, and Wheelburner says he can pay you this, and this is what you're going to make, and this is the contracts we've got. You can't take that truck and you can't move it. The only option you've got is you either have to pay ET out, right, the remainder of the lease, and probably a penalty, or you have to hand the truck back in and go start from scratch over here. And maybe Wheelburner doesn't offer that lease, right? So I would say, is Wheelburner Express hiring? What can you do for me? What can you do for me? So my personal feeling on this, and this is just over my experience, it's just my opinion and my own personal experience. Start with your own truck, start with your own financing, get your own financing, and go buy your own truck, purchase your own truck. Myself personally, I've never in my life ever bought a truck. I've never gone to a bank like the Royal Bank or TD or anything like that. I've never gone to the bank and taken a loan out and bought a truck, or I've never used my credit line and purchased a truck. That's just my way. I don't buy trucks. I lease them, right? I lease the trucks. Now, it doesn't mean I'm leasing it to the company that I'm working for. Instead of a purchase, it's just written up as a lease. And there's a hundred different lots of benefits to leasing, as there are some benefits to owning. But at the end of the deal, it's still, I would always lease my trucks for 4 years. Some of them were 3, but let's say 4 years with a $1 plus tax buyout on the end of it. No balloon payment, no nothing. And what I would do is I would simply try to put as big a down payment as I possibly can on that truck to lower my payment, and try to shorten the term as short as possible. If you can get it down to 3 years, but that also gives you the option of being able to take that truck and go anywhere you want with it, right? I took that truck. I worked. I got the truck from ET, right? I purchased the truck from ET. It wasn't brand new. Okay, that truck that I had, that Cascadia, it wasn't brand new. It was about 8.5 months old when I purchased it. I did the Ronan and ET has their YouTube channel, and I did a 90-day challenge. Ronan challenged me to drive that truck for 90 days, and as compare it to, say, a Kenworth W9. And anyway, so we did all of that, and at the end of the 90 days, I went to them and said, okay, I'm gonna, because I hadn't bought a truck. I'd sold the Kenworth and I hadn't bought a new truck yet. So Ronan said, well, let's do this for the next 90 days and keep you trucking, and then you can go buy your truck. And I agreed to it. And at the end of the 90 days, I didn't want another truck. I wanted that truck. Right. So, and they were Ronan went to the ownership group, and they were gracious enough to sell me the truck at a really good price, and with really good terms. But I still had to go get my own financing. So you go get your own financing. And if there, at least if you need to know good companies, finance companies, and I'm not talking about banks, I'm talking about companies that will finance you in trucks, send me an email, wheelburnerexpress@gmail.com. I'll give you a list of probably the 3 best out there, 2 of which I've used. Okay. And these people and these companies, they're not going to jerk you around. They're not going to screw you over. They're not going to put hidden clauses in. You're not going to be sitting there afterwards going, oh my God, like this. If you really, really, really want it, send me an email, and I'll be happy to share this information with you for nothing. Everything you said is right. At ET's, lease stands out the most. Well, you know what? Again, you can't take that truck. If you're not happy, you're either giving it back or you're buying it out. On top of that, remember this, okay? Not just ET, but every other trucking company out there, after the 3 years that they've run that truck as a company truck, and let's say it's been 4 years, but 3 years, every year they're making payments on that truck, right? They don't buy them outright. That'd be stupid. They lease them as well, with same kind of the same setup, but they just do it in a much larger fashion. They'll buy it, and after 3 years, that truck's pretty much paid for. So now you're leasing it from them. Okay, you're leasing it from them. So let's just say, and I know that ET Transport usually wants a minimum of $5,000 down. I know that they've done it for some guys that have done it for $3,000, but that's only because that guy's worked for the company for 5 years as a company ride, and now so they cut him a break and they did it for $3,000 down. But you're probably looking at about $5,000 down, and somewhere around $2,700 or $2,800 a month for a truck payment on a 3-year unit, on a 3-year term. So are you willing to do that? You can't take that truck. You can't go anywhere with that truck. You're stuck with that truck. And like I said, if you want to move it and go somewhere else, you either got to buy it out or you got to hand it back in. And that's just the way that works. But all of those, let's say you keep that truck for 3 years. Let's say you run the lease out for 3 years. Now you've got a 6-year-old truck, right, that you've been making payments on for 3 years. ET paid it off 3 years or on the 3rd year, on your 1st year, they paid it off. So for 3 more years, you're putting nothing but 100% profit in their pocket, right? You've just made whatever it is. Let's say you purchased the truck for, it's 90 grand. I don't know, pulling numbers out of my ass. I don't know, right? But let's say it's 90 grand is the deal on the truck. It's $90,000. You put $5,000 down. They're going to finance you for $85,000. at what, 8? Let's just go 8% interest. It's not. It's probably going to be a little bit higher right now, but let's say 8% interest over a 4-year term, dude, that is money in their pocket. They don't need to charge you interest. They're making money on the payment. That's profit to them. That truck's not cost. Now that truck is no longer costing them anything. All that truck is costing them is, yes, they're covering the insurance on that. Yes, they're covered. They pay the plates on that. But in the big scheme of it, they've got fleet insurance. They're not paying the same insurance as if I went out right now and got a truck and trailer and put insurance on it. So their insurance is significantly less. And most of them, once they've got over 50 trucks, they're self-insured anyway, right? So now you're paying for the next 3 years on that lease. You're putting money in their pocket. Every payment you've made, they're just going, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Because that truck's paid for. It was paid for when they gave it to you. And now all you're doing is giving. So that's the other thing I really don't like, right? Why? Why can't you give me a new unit? Now, if you go to a company, say like TransX, they do for the most part try to put you into a new unit or the newest unit that possibly can. And that's just, that's just the way they do it. Other companies do it. I've seen guys go into a lease payment on or a lease purchase payment on a 2018 or a 2019. Why are you fucking taking a 3-year lease on a truck that's already 7 years old? By the time that thing's already at 7 years old, that truck is already coming into the end of its life cycle. The average truck these days, being whether it be a Freightliner, a Kenworth, a Peterbilt, any of the new emissions and all the new trucks, they've got a shelf life or a lifespan of about 8 years. After 8 years, they're pretty much boat anchors. They're not worth jack shit. So why would you take a 3-year lease on a 7-year-old unit that's already got 70 70,000? No, probably close to 700, 800, close to 1 million kilometers. Then you're going to take that thing for another 3 years because you can pick it up for what, 35, 40, maybe $45,000. These are Canadian prices, right? It doesn't make sense, but that's what they dangle out there, right? They dangle it out. All the big companies do it, right? And I'm not focusing just on ET because but that's just what somebody said. That's just what you said. You used ET as an example, so I use ET as an example. And the only reason I know this is because I was with ET for 3 years. Good morning, Karen. Good to see you. ET though, not for me. I've seen that Ronin guy's videos. They buy trucks that I wouldn't be caught dead driving. Shaka Gillis, I can't agree with that, really. Honestly, Midwest man, good to see you. Stephanie, great to see you. Hang out. The Birdman will probably be along shortly. Shaka, they primarily, I think right now, I don't know how many Volvos they got left in their fleet, but they are running the Cascadias, and that's primarily what their fleet is. ET does. And the ownership group over there they've done their research and their due diligence, and the reason they run those Cascadias is because they compared it to, they used to have a 50-50 split between the Cascadias and the Volvos, and they had at one point they had Kenworths, and they've had Peterbilts, and they've had a variety of different trucks. And I think what they did is they just did the comparison between each of them, and then in the end they narrowed it down to Volvos. And they had the Volvos, they had the 760s, and they had the Freightliner Cascadias. And they just basically ran them at a 50-50 split. And they were noticing that the Volvos were costing them more money. There was more downtime, more emissions problems, more, they were in the shop more. And even though a lot of stuff is covered by warranty, just because it's covered by warranty, everybody goes, oh yeah, it's covered by, I don't have to worry about that. It's covered by warranty. Yeah, but if your truck's sitting in the shop for fucking 2 weeks waiting to get fixed on warranty, you're down, it's 2 weeks worth of money your truck's not generating, and you've still got a payment to make. The bank or the leasing company doesn't sit there and go, oh, you broke down for 2 weeks? Okay, well, we'll throw you a break. No, on the 1st or the 15th or whenever you got your payment set up, they want their money. So they did very, and I know Ronin. I know the way he is. I know the way he thinks. He's very, 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 very diligent when it comes to this. When you see him on his channel, yes, he comes off as sometimes the goofy desk jockey or whatever like that. But in the business terms of what he's doing and how that company is being run with the partners and everything like that, I can tell you right now, if they're running primarily Cascadias, and people are going, oh, well, those are junk trucks. Well, I don't think so. I had one of those Cascadias. I had it for 5 years. Best truck I ever owned. Was it the most comfortable truck in the world? No. Were the Kenworths more comfortable? Sure. Were they more glamorous? Were they, nice, the nicer ride? Maybe. But bang for buck, the Cascadia was just a pure money maker. It was a printing press to make money. I never had problems with that truck. As far as emissions, and if my truck went down, I was never down for more than a day or a day and a half. I never had engine problems with that thing. I never had any emissions, short of, okay, you're replacing an inlet and outlet knock sensor, a DPF pressure sensor, shit like that. Anything that can be fixed in the span of 25 minutes or 30 minutes. But I never had to have that engine taken apart. I never had the emissions part taken apart. I've never had a problem with EGR coolers or valves or any of that kind of shit. But the Volvos were causing Ronin and ET problems, so they opted to stay with the Freightliners. And why? Because they just work better, and parts are more readily available. You can take a Freightliner. You can stand on the roof of my house right now and close your eyes and throw a rock in any direction. You're going to hit a Freightliner dealership, or somebody that can work on a Detroit engine. Right? You can't do that necessarily with a Volvo. If you've got a Volvo with a D13 engine, that thing's either going to a specialized shop it's somebody or that truck's going into Volvo, or you're having to limp it back to your own shop, depending on how far away you are. So, when you take all of that into account, they're easy to maintain. They get very good mileage. They're cheaper to maintain. Are they the most glamorous? No. But, do they do the job? Absolutely. Absolutely. They do the job. Everybody trashes on the Cascadia. And I'm not just saying this because I owned one, but they trash on the Cascadia. Oh, it's just a freight shaker. Man, go buy yourself a fucking new LT, right? Go buy yourself a new binder, or go buy yourself, all of these trucks right now are all suffering from the same bullshit going on with them right now. Freightliner just seems to be ahead above everybody else. And if the proof is in the pudding, go look at the market right now for the last year. Now I haven't looked at this year, but I think I was looking, something about it. I was doing a video about it, something, whatever, for last year, for 2024. And I think Freightliner owned, something like 70% of the market, or maybe it was 65 or 60 or 65% of the market. And then PACCAR, which is Kenworth and Peterbilt combined, right? They owned like 25 or something, and then Volvo, and then International, and blah, 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 blah. But that's not by accident, right? Freightliner, they don't sell more Freightliners by accident. It's because, you know what? They're reasonably priced. They're cheaper to run. They're easy to maintain. The Detroits are bulletproof, or not bulletproof, but they're tried and proven engines, and they work well. And that's why, and all of that, what I said, is that's why why ET Transport and Ronan and the boys over there decided to do what they did. And I don't blame them. I do the exact same goddamn thing. When it comes to numbers in this game, in this business, especially talking about fleet, because you remember ET Transport is now a fleet. I think they're up over 120, maybe 120, 125 trucks. And they probably got, in excess of 300, 350 trailers. So when you get up into that level, there's probably nobody else I know that's better at this game than Ronin is. Really, I don't have any beefs, and I don't have any. I'm not gaining anything. I don't need to kiss the man's ass at all. I'm just saying that from my experience of working with him and dealing with him and working for him, there's probably nobody else out there in the fleet level, in that size of fleet, that is better at what they do than Ronin and the rest of the other ownership group. So if ET Transport is doing something, it's for a reason. They're just not doing it willy-nilly. And I can tell you right now, that ownership group will never ever go, well, I'm not sure about this. Let's throw this out there and see if it works. They don't do that, right? They don't do that. What do you think about the Internationals? I ran one for 3 years, and I ran Peterbilt, and I really enjoyed the International better. What about you? George, I've been in the new LTs. I've not driven a brand new LT like a 25 or a 26. I've driven 20s, 21s. The company that I came out of, KBD, that's what they ran, right? Their fleet used to be Pro Stars back when it was 2017, 2018. And then when the LT came in, they switched to the LT platform. I like the space in them. They're very roomy. They're very spacious. But people want to complain about a Freightliner being shaking, right? If you want to complain, go get into an LT. That thing will rattle your fucking teeth loose. Your eyeballs, you'll go to bed at the end of the. My truck went down and I borrowed an LT, and all I did is I went down to Berlin, New Jersey with it, right? Took a van load down to Berlin, New Jersey, 13-speed manual down to Jersey, delivered the load, ran over to the port in Jersey into Newark, right? Ran into the port, picked up a load of copper out of there and just brought it back up. So I was down one day, delivered that morning, went over, picked up in Berlin or in Jersey, in Newark, and came back up. So I was down and up in a day and a half. And let me tell you, man, I will never, ever, ever do that again. Going up and down 81 and then on the 476, the toll road, and just the bumps and all the shit. I was happy to get back into my Cascadia, and yes, it rattled too, but not like that, man. Not like that. Now they do come with the X15 platform engines in them, which are good engines. They are. That X15 is a good engine. I know several people right now that are running those engines, and they're very happy with them. Chicken Hawk's running one, Shannon Thomas is running one. The X15. I can't speak much on the X13 platform, the 13-liter version of it. I don't know. But the 15 liters are doing very well. And as far as I know, they're not really shop hogs, right? They're not sitting in the shop and they're not breaking down. They're not doing a lot of that right now. I think PACCAR, what is that? What do they got? The MX-13. I think PACCAR and Volvo are still probably at the high. If you're going to buy, you're in the highest risk of having electric emissions and engine, and maybe Volvo's not so much the engines, but the electrical issues. And the problem I found with Volvo is that they're over fucking built, right? There's too many sensors on it. There's too much shit on it. As compared to say a Cascadia or an International or even the Pete's and Kenworth. So I'm running MAN and Scania, no Freightliners over here. Nice. I'm jealous. I'll be honest with you, I'm jealous. I'd love to. Justin Trudeau for president. Yeah, Justin is not my favorite, and neither's Mark Carney. So talk about video games. Sean, we're not talking about video games. What video games do you want to talk about? I don't know jack shit about video games, to be honest with you. The last time I played video games was probably a couple of years ago, and it was at that time it was the latest Call of Duty, Black Ops. I don't know what it was, 3 or fuck whatever. That was the last time I played a video game, so I don't know jack shit. And other than that, like there's the odd time I'm going through YouTube Shorts and you'll see these kids and they're doing the mountain driving in a truck. Troy, nice Troy. They do the mountain driver. They're doing the driving in the simulator, and they've got 5,000 people watching them. But yet there's guys out there like Joey Whispers and Semi Ernie. They're actually driving their truck in real life, right? Real life. The camera's out the window. They've got the system set up. They don't have to read the comments. The comments are read to them in their ears, and there's no distracted driving. And these guys are doing real life trucking, but yet the youth of today would rather watch some kid sit there and drive, a simulated truck, and there's 5,000 people watching that when you could be watching a real professional truck driver practice his trade and craft live. And he's got I don't know what Joey Whispers, he's live right now. I don't know what he's got for people viewing. He's probably got somewhere between 50 and 75 people watching him, but yet this kid's got 5,000 people watching him. I don't get that. And the other one I don't get is you go through and you'll see the Filipino girl and she's in bed and she's sound asleep, and she's been live for 3 hours and there's 2,000 people watching her sleep. She's not doing anything. She's just sleeping. I don't get that. I don't understand that. I'm unloading in Dancaster, then loading hanging beef for, I'm not even saying the names of these places, and then reloading that place there wherever you're going. Like the names that you guys get. Well, of course, Robert, you're over in Europe, so it's a little different over there. But I guess it's easier for you to say the names over here than it is for me to say the names over there. But hopefully, dude, you get it going soon. I'm lazing around today, buddy, because a mechanic changed some injectors at the common rail, and a couple of weeks ago, one of the injectors was tightened too tightly, so the common rail broke. The common rail, you talking about the fuel rail? I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% about the common rail. I don't know what you're talking about. I know what a fuel rail is, right? When you're dealing with injectors, I think we're probably talking about the same thing, Pat. At Tyke Trucking, same core engine architecture, religion specific bolt-ons, diff emissions, gear, fuel system, peripherals and sensor layouts, blocks identical, the occasional customized for local regs. Now tell me the truth, Jason. You just Googled the shit out of that because that was so perfectly fucking said that had to come off of Google. That really did. Honest to God. The Detroit engine, and this is what you're commenting, the Detroit engine is the Freightliner, is the same engine as the Mercedes over there. And it's funny. It is. And Robert, you and I have, Tyke, you and I have spoken about this. When they ordered the trucks, they ordered ET ordered a specific number of trucks. They were all coming through the was it Pride? Not Pride. Who the hell was it in Mississauga there, where they were buying their trucks? And there was they had ordered, I think they had ordered 20 trucks, and they couldn't get all 20 in time for delivery, so they had 5 of them shipped over from Europe. Ours was one of them. So if you would have looked on my engine, it didn't say Detroit, it said Mercedes on the it would say on the thing, it would say on the tag up here, it would say DD15, but on the bottom tag on the plate, it was Mercedes. And same with my trans and my diffs were all Mercedes. They weren't labeled Freightliner or Detroit. So you just be lazy. You do that. I wasn't taking a shot at you there. I'm just saying, like, that was like, if I would have read what Robert said, which I did, I would have Googled the fuck out of that. And that's what I probably would have come up with right there. So, oh my God, how do you know this? How do I know what? Deborah, how do I know what? Volvo makes the most over here, but they are garbage, much like the States. Mercedes is riddled with problems. You want a good truck here, it's a MAN or a Scania. Well, isn't MAN, who does MAN owns what? They own, because DAF owns PACCAR, do they not? So that would be DAF would own PACCAR, and so they own Peterbilt and Kenworth. Yeah, the fuel rail. Okay, Pat, that's what I thought. Who I don't know. I know that I think does MAN own International over here? I don't. Well, I know actually, I know Volkswagen now owns International. I don't know. I don't know what to compare it to. I don't know what to compare a MAN engine or a MAN truck to. I've heard it, MAN or Scania. I've heard it, but I don't know what to compare it to. VW owns MAN. So I guess MAN is, what your version over there of the binders of the Internationals. Okay. I'm learning something here. I don't claim to know everything. Believe me, I don't. Especially now when it comes to truck ownership of who owns what and who owns this and who owns that. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 major owners, and you can have just use the Tata Group over there. The one guy over there that owns the Tata Group, and the Tata Group owns fucking, I don't know for sure, but let's just say they own MAN, they own this. They'll own 20 different brands of manufacturers of vehicles, cars, trucks, motorcycles, and then they branch out from there. So if Tata owns this, and then say a subsidiary down here is, let's just say it's International, or let's say it's Volkswagen, right? Now Volkswagen probably owns 17 or 18 different companies on its own. It would be mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling, to follow the trail. It's been done. There's charts out there. You can go look it up. PACCAR own Dad, VW own MAN and International. Okay. See, I again, this is all Europe, and the funny thing is, Craig Rat, good to see you, by the way. The funny thing is, Craig Rat, is you guys over there, like somebody there was just talking about, they're having Mercedes is having problems over there. But the funny thing is, you guys over there in Europe, the engines that you're running, like the Volvo D13 engine, or we don't have the D16 over here anymore. There's still a few of them around, but I don't think you can actively buy one. They just couldn't get them to work like they do in Europe. You got the D13, but and here's the example I'm going to give you. Okay, when I was at ET Transport, the top tech there, his name was Alex. He ran the shop. He came from Europe. Okay. Now he did his apprenticeship and he did his school, he did his apprenticeship, and then he worked many years working for Volvo over in Europe. And then he immigrated over to Canada. He immigrated over to Canada, and then he started working for ET Transport and took over their shop, and they had Volvos. And when ET was taking delivery, and this would have been back in probably 2020, around there, or 2021 when this happened, when they were taking delivery of the new Volvos, like right from the dealership, brand new Volvo. So let's say they were taking delivery of a brand new Volvo in 2020. Alex was looking at these engines and he was looking at the setups and everything. He's going, what the F is going on? And we were like, what's, he goes, we were working on these engines 5 years ago. 5 years ago. So basically, you guys over in Europe have your engine platforms right now, and I'm just using Volvo as an example. And I would probably imagine the Mercedes is no different, DAF is no different, being PACCAR, right, or anything like that. You guys over there, your engine platforms over in Europe are still several years away. Why do you think you guys had all the emissions bullshit worked out long before we did? You guys were several years ahead, which leads me to think of, if I was Volvo, why would I not be using the same engines on both continents? If you've got this fantastic D13 engine and you've got no emissions problems, you got nothing, why would you not have that? Why would you be, why would the North American market be 3 to 5 years behind the European market on trucks, on engines? And the only thing I could come up with was that they were making more money on service and parts over here, right? So the engines were problematic. They knew they were problematic. They knew how to fix them because they already had over in Europe. Those engines were running flawlessly. But yet over here, we were still choking and gagging, spitting and puking, farting with all this bullshit going on with these engines. So why did they do that? Well, the only logical thing I can come up with is to say that these engines were, or PACCAR or DAF or whoever owned them, they were making more money on their service and their parts. And then, when that kind of bled out and they had no choice but to, start when by 2025, where we are now, the engines we're running now is what you guys in Europe were running back in 2020 or 2021. Right. So now we've got a better platform. Why? Because you guys over there hammered out all the bugs and all the problems. Traton Group owns both MAN and Scania. DAF is owned by PACCAR. We don't even talk about DAF. They're the worst. They're worse than Volvo, and that's hard to do. I ran old school motors. None had DEF. I've run both, right? I've run, I've run the old engines. I've owned cats. I've had a C12 cat. I've had a 3406 cat. I've run the Cummins. I've never had an N14, but I've had two of the ISXs. I had a 2008 ISX in my Peterbilt, And I had a 2012 Freightliner Cascadia that I didn't drive, that I had a driver in, and it had the ISX 15 in that. I had nothing but headaches with those, but now we're into the X15 platforms, right? And they're very good. They're very good from what I've had the Volvos. I bought a brand new 2014 Volvo. Had the D13 engine. When it was healthy and ran, it was a great engine. It really was. But back then also, I was run and set up with heavy. I was running heavy spec. I was running heavy loads. I was everything like that. So that 13-liter engine was really working. Tyke says, I like the Volvos. I don't think you do. The new Mercedes looks like a bloody UFO. Well, Pat, they all do. Pat, they all do. They all look like UFOs, for Christ's sake. You go open the hood on one of the new, let's just pick one. I don't give a shit which one you pick. Pick a brand new Peterbilt, right? What is that? 589, 579? I don't know. Pick a brand new Peterbilt. Here, Chicken Hawk. Here, we'll use Chicken Hawk. He's not here. Let's use him as an example. Chicken Hawk just bought a 26 W990, right? With the X15 Performance Series engine and platform and everything in it. You go open the hood on that truck, I promise you, if you're a guy like me, I promise you, you're going to look at that and you're just going to shake your head. It's ridiculous what you're looking at. I made the comment yesterday, then I made the comparison when I had the W9, right, with the 60 series, the 12760 series, and I had the Cascadia, right? I backed them up against the fence so that they were parked side by side like this. I opened the hood on both of them, and we made a video, and it was absolutely mind-boggling. And this was back in 2020. Okay, it was mind-boggling that in the first 5 feet of that Cascadia, first 5 feet from the nose back to the firewall, the first 5 feet, there were more sensors and electronics and gadgets and wires and shit in the first 5 feet of that truck than there was in the entire length of that W9. 5 feet versus the entire length. There was more in that 5 feet than the entire length of my W9. So could you imagine what that is like what that is today? Could you imagine what that rate is or what that ratio is today? If you open up the hood on a 2026 right now, I'm sure you'd be able to sit there and go, okay, that's a turbo. Yeah, that's an alternator. Water pump. Okay, yeah, got it. After that, okay, you might be a little more up to date because some of us have had to run new. Okay, there's your EGR cooler. Okay, you could probably pick off the major components. After that, man, you're fucking lost. You are absolutely lost. You won't have a damn clue what you're looking at. And I say this all the time, and I hate to sound repetitive, but it's like you spend $260,000 on a computer. They throw the truck in for free. The truck doesn't cost jack. They're giving you the truck. You're paying for the technology. DAF is short for Dutch and fucked. The greatest president this world has ever seen, the Don, has put a stop to all of emissions bullshit. Who's that? Who's the Don? Dang, woke hippie bullshit. Ooh, I don't think you're talking about me. Google the new Mercedes, Brian. You will see what I mean. Okay. Well, you just sent it to me, so you're going to save me having to Google it. I'll go check it out once I'm done. There we go. 12.7 Detroit turned all the way up back when Detroit was solid. You know what? And I 100% agree with you. Again, just my opinion, man. And I'm not here to start an argument. My opinion, when you go back to those days, let's say between like the late 80s and into the 90s, the best engines back then, at the top of the list for me, if you want all around performance, if you want just something that you're going to fucking say you're doing a heavy haul application, for the life of that truck, all you're going to be doing is pulling super heavy or super heavy, then yeah, you're going to go with the Cat. So their last platform, I think, was the C15 and the C13, but you'd go back to the 3406 and the 6NZs. Those were great mechanical engines. right? That you could turn one of those things on as long as you kept feeding it fucking fuel. The thing, you could turn it on and not turn it off for 5 years. No problem. But if you want all around performance, like fuel mileage, good power, reasonable torque, but if you want longevity and a long life, I think just in this order, and this is just the order that I've got them in, only out of experience. I think that the 60 series platform, the 12.7 and the 14 liter, and personally, I would take the 12.7. They're at the top of the list for all around performance and reliability. The N14 Cummins, if you can get the N14, the red top version, great engine. They were prone, and they still are today, they were prone to having injector issues. But the great thing about those engines, and I can refer to my buddy Gord, he ran one for years and years and years. He kept extra injectors in the truck with him, and he can literally pull into the truck stop, throw the hood open, and in the span of a couple of hours, he could swap out all his injectors, put it all back together, and truck on down the road. You don't need to do like you do with the new ones today, where the injectors have to go in, they got to get coated. And there's so much more to it. You're not just popping the top off and taking the cover off and then swapping out your injectors. It doesn't work like that with these new engines. But the N14 was so simple. 60 series as well, but it was a little harder than the N14. The N14 was notorious for injectors, and it was great. Gordy used to carry around an extra 6-pack of injectors, and as they were blowing, he was pulling in, boom, change them, boom, and off down the road he would go. The N14, good horsepower, good reliability. Aside from the injectors, good reliability. Everybody goes, well, those old engines, they all leaked and they were slobber knockers. Yeah, the Detroit series. If you look under your truck, when this went back to with the Kenworth and previously with the other Freightliner, they had the 60 series Detroits in them. If you look under your truck in the morning and there's not a couple dabs of oil under there, that means you're out of oil. Yeah, you're constantly topping them up, but they drool and they slobber, and they're supposed to do it. They've done it, and they've always done it since the beginning of time. Same with the N14. The N14 was another slobber knocker. It dripped oil, and you know what? You didn't lose your shit over it. We knew it was happening. We knew what it was. We knew why it was happening. Whatever. You just keep it topped up with oil, and as long as you kept your fuel tanks full, you could run that turn that engine on right now, and turn it off 5 years from now. You didn't have to worry about that engine. And then there's Detroit. Then you got into the N14 Cummins, and then you get into the Cats. Right, the Cats were all around great engines that they came from a construction platform application, meaning that they were in bulldozers. They're still in bulldozers. They're in bulldozers. They're in dump truck, or not dump trucks, earth movers, and all that kind of shit. Most of the mining equipment, a lot of them have the Cats nowadays. You see Volvos out there now with them doing the big applications and shit like that, but most of it was Cat back in the day. So those engines came from there, and then they went to the Class 8, which was the road truck, taking them out on the highway. And yeah, they made them work, and yeah, they were great engines. A, they were expensive to fix, and they still are. And B, they bombed for fuel mileage. They weren't built for it. They weren't properly made for that. They were made for torque. They were made for high horsepower, high torque. They were made for pulling exceptionally heavy loads or moving exceptionally heavy things. And that's what they were built for. They just put them in trucks, and everybody bought them because you could dial, you could take a 6NZ and dial that thing up to 700 horse and, go down the road. They would take it and they would perform, but man, would they drink fuel. Absolutely brutal on fuel. Now, mind you, back in those days, fuel was what, $1 a gallon? We had N14s, no problem at all, but maybe European specs was better. Who knows? I don't know. Again, I've never had an N14 European model to look at. Mr. Ryan Staten Sellers, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Rodeo, can you do a donut on a car? Can I do a donut on a car? I can do a donut in a car. I don't think I can do one on a car. You want me to sit on the car and do the donut? I don't think so. Yeah, Joey, I agree with you. 12.7 Detroit, turn it up. The 12.7s were great because you could take those things up to about 575. right? If there were guys that took them up to 600 plus, but you had to pull the crank on them, put a different crank in, you had to put a bigger rad on it. With the 12.7, you had to kind of beef it up. But if you just wanted to take a stock 12.7, you could take that thing up to 575 and it would endure, it would take it. You're going to burn more fuel and there's going to be a little more wear and tear on the engine. People say, well, the higher the horsepower, the less it has to work to pull the load because you got more. That's not necessarily how that works. But yeah, you could take those up to 575 comfortably, no problem. Once you got up into the 600 range, you had to start changing a couple things on them. I've seen a guy drifting a Scania around a roundabout on Marty's Moan's slip, the clutch video. You saw some guy drifting a Scania. I think we've all taken our turn with our trucks bobtail in the winter. Find a big old, when I was working at KBD, we had probably about 30 acres of land out back that was, in wintertime, it was plowed and it was smooth as glass. And sure, we all took our turn sitting out there and you bobtail your truck out there and you do a little drifting and boogieing around and make sure you're not banging into anything. But with 30 acres, you're not going to hit jack. We've all taken our turn doing that. I wouldn't do it in a company truck, but I did it in my own. Franklin, good to see you, man. Hi, how are you? Gotta love that Duramax pre 2006. Well, the Duramax engine, as soon as the emissions came in, see, Duramax was I don't know what they were thinking. Sorry, I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know what they were thinking. They were thinking that they could meet and exceed the emissions without the DEF and all the shit on it, and they thought they could do it. And the Duramax engine was absolute crap. They could not make it work once it came in. The pre 2006, you know what? I'll be honest with you. Surviving, I don't know. I never drove one, man. I never drove one, and I never owned one. So I have nothing to compare that to. I couldn't give you a cost factor on it, a mileage factor on it. I couldn't. I've never owned one. If I had owned one, I could probably tell you. But I know that once the emissions came in and all that shit came in with the emission standards and everything like that, and International and Duramax went, oh yeah, we're gonna do, and then what they do, they went from the Duramax to what, the Navistar, and the Navistar was another boat anchor, right? That thing was, brand new. Take it out and just throw it in the river and go get yourself a fucking Cummins. I'm a 2-year-old trucker. I drove a Kenworth for 9 months and they put me in a Cascadia. Well, a lot of people, especially if you're not buying the truck and you're not paying for it, you're going to think that's a step down. And in comfort standards, yeah, it is. Excuse me. In comfort standards, it is. If you're in a new T680 or a new 990, come on, man. Let's face it. That's a very luxurious truck. It's very comfortable inside that truck. It's they're nice. And then you're going to go from that into a Cascadia. Well, there's got to be a reason why. Probably that Cascadia is say 70 to 65 to $70,000 cheaper to buy per unit, right? So there's that right off the top. Parts are more readily available. Service is more readily available. All of these factors work into why companies do this. Yes, you can go and there's Peterbilt and Kenworth dealerships, and if you drive a Peterbilt, you can take it into a Kenworth dealership. They're going to work on it, but still, just in just pure numbers, there's still more Freightliner dealerships around than anything else. And if you've got a DD15 in that, and if all you've got is an engine issue and it's not a Freightliner issue, you can take a DD15 almost anywhere. You can pretty probably take it into a Volvo dealership and they can work on it. You can take it into a Pete dealership, a Kenworth dealership. Those guys can all work on it. So unless it's Freightliner specific problem, you can take that Detroit anywhere. You can say the same thing about the Cummins, right? If you've got a PACCAR, or if you've got a Pete or a Kenworth, and you've got the ISX, or not the ISX, sorry, the X15 in it, you can take that X15 pretty much anywhere. Everybody's certified to work on those engines. But if your company is going, what you would think is they're stepping down from Kenworth to Peterbilt, they're doing it for a reason, and the reason is simply, like I said, they're about $70,000 per unit less, Their track record right now, the Freightliners are still probably the most reliable truck on the road right now. They're cheaper to maintain. They're cheaper to fix, and they're easier to find service for them. You know, and that's just what I would think if that's what I saw. If I was driving for a company and they pulled me out of a Kenworth and put me in a Freightliner, or they just don't like you, buddy. You know, there's a senior driver that wants a nicer ride, so they're giving you the shit sandwich, and then the other driver is getting the senior driver is getting the nicer ride. 12.7 never really took off in the UK. The equivalent Mercedes motor was gutless. It's funny how the English call them motors. Um, in North America, they're engines. To us, a motor is electric. That's a motor. Over here, they're engines. A combustion engine. It's not a combustion motor. I'm not making fun of you, Craig. It's just funny that I noticed that just certain European, wherever you are, you guys call your engines motors. Over here, when I think of a motor, if I say motor, I'm thinking electric motor, but it's actually engine. These bloody English that can't speak English. So what are they using over there? The Mercedes, were you what? Did you use the 14 liters? Is that was the big thing? Buddy, I'm off. Time to go and get a massage. Have a good day. Yeah, you're not getting a massage. You know, I know, we all know you're getting a massage, but you're not getting a massage. See you later, Pat. Good to see you. Um, I want that copy. Thank you for explaining that to me. Kenworth back. Yeah. You know what? It's simple as that. As simple as that. I would, if I was a fleet owner today, let's just say that, I had Elon Musk money and I was going to start a trucking company and I was going to have a fleet of trucks. And I would consider, like in that level there, I would see consider a fleet of trucks of anything north of, say, 30, 35, 40 trucks. Right now, you've got a fleet. Which truck would I be going to buy all day long? I'd be speccing out Cascadias all day long. To be a dick, I'd go buy a Kenworth W990, and that's what I drive for my personal truck. But the rest of my fleet, everybody working for me, they're all driving Cascadias. Now I'm gonna owner op spec them. You're not gonna get the base. There's not gonna be like Schneider or Swift or any of these companies that they'll give you the truck, but you're gonna get a Cascadia, or even if you're getting a T680, you're getting a base model, right? I would owner op spec them out. You get the bigger fridge, you'll get the carpets on the floor, you'll get the EPU battery pack, heat, air conditioning, and the heat, the engine heater. I would spec them out, but yes, I would go with the DD15, Detroit engine, with the Cascadia. I would not take the digital dash. I'd still keep the analog or the dial dash. Not a fan of the digital dashes. I would have the DT12 transmission in it. Loved that transmission. It never did me wrong. It ran solid till the day I sold that truck. I'd have the DT12. I have the 308 rear ends in the rear end of gears in it. I'd have mine had 13 steers, and it had 40 rear ends, and that's what I would be speccing my truck. Aside from some of the small little things that I would change, I'd put the bigger mirrors on, driver passenger mirror. I'd have the satellite diagnostic system. You pay extra for that, but it's a lifesaver. I had that in my truck, so every time if a check engine light came on and I didn't have to roll the truck into a Freightliner, I could call just about any Freightliner dealership, give them my VIN. They would go into the computer and you'd hear the guy going, and then he'd sit there and you'd hear the, okay, yeah. And they can read the code and they can read the truck. They can see exactly what the truck's doing, where you are, what the RPMs are, what's going on, what the diagnostics of the truck, what the code is, what the problem is. And many times they said to me, okay, it's a knock sensor. Okay, so I don't have to roll it into Freightliner. I can wait till I can get that thing home. Right, I can get it home. It doesn't have to be done right this minute. It's not an emergency, or they would say, okay, you've got whatever. you need, you got to get that thing going. We find the nearest dealership and get it. And that's what I would do. So it was worth the money. Now, mind you, I didn't pay for it. ET did. It was part of their package and it just transferred over to me when I bought the truck. But if I was buying fleet trucks, I'd have it in every single one of my fleet trucks, because I don't want my guys, every time you get a check engine light, they're going to call me and go, okay, well, here's the code. Then, of course, we're Googling our asses off trying to find out, or we're calling Freightliner. Why? If the check engine light comes on, I want my guy to be calling Freightliner. Here's the number at Freightliner. You call this number, let them diagnose it. And then, you don't have to take it into if you're down in Pennsylvania, you're out in Kentucky, you're fucking wherever. If you can get the truck home, bring it home. I'd rather you fix it at home. But then if it has to go into the shop, then that's fine too down there. That's how I would spec them out. But the bottom line is I'd be going with Cascadias all day long. There's some difference between British English and American English. What about Canadian English? They say the Ford Pinto had the best engine. Really? My buddy had a 16-liter V8. My N14 walked all over him. I don't know. We don't have 16-liter V8s over here, right? All like our 16-liter trucks over here. You can buy a DD16 over here, a Detroit. You can buy a DD16 over here, and they're still 6 cylinders. What about a fleet of battery-powered trucks? Putty-cat, give your head a shake. Are you out of your fucking mind? I care about the Jake brakes. Kenworth seems like Jailbreak was much better. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but I'll be honest with you. The Jakes in my Detroit. Remember, all of these Jakes now are all controlled electronically. It's not like back in the day where, with the 60 series Detroit or the Cats or anything like that. You throw the switch, you throw one switch to turn the Jakes on, and then you had another switch for all 3 stages, right? So let's say you had it in stage 3 on the high, you throw your Jakes on, you're rolling down a hill, and you get that beautiful, beautiful sound. And I think the most, there you go. There's your Jakes right there. I think the most beautiful was the Cats, right? You take a 6NZ or the 3406 or 08s, easy. You're not rolling. You take either of those and you throw the Jakes on, especially going down a long hill or say going through a mountain tunnel. Oh my God, the vibration is fantastic and wonderful. We don't have that today. If you listen to the Cascadia that I sold or any of the new ones, Pete's, Internationals, Kenworths, Freightliners, Volvos, it doesn't matter, right? You throw the Jakes on, you're rolling down a hill. You'll feel it, but all you're going to hear is, that's all you're going to feel. From my experience, the Jakes in my Detroit were very good, but the Jakes in the X15 are even better than that. Like they would have, if you had 46,000 pounds in third stage, it could pretty much hold you once you've got yourself into the right gear going down the hill. The Jakes on the X15 will hold you. But again, you don't get that sound or sensation of, like the beautiful sound. You get it sounds like a cat purring underneath the hood of your engine, under the hood of your truck. Mouth work. That's what the Jakes on a Volvo sound like right there. Stephanie's cleaning her house. Use a horse and carriage. Yeah, you get good Jake brakes on that, eh? Queen's English. Well, there's no Queen, so I guess wouldn't it be King's English? And the King over there is a turd, so whatever. Stephanie's back. She's cleaning the house, but I'm listening. So we should talk about Stephanie. Somebody talk up some shit about Stephanie. During the power days in Europe in the late 80s and late 90s, some European truck brands were making V10s and V12s. You know what? I think they may have dabbled with some of that over here, but I can't remember. You got to see this. She's standing right here, looking right up at me, and she's like, "Are you gonna fucking pet me? Like, what are you doing?" No, the cat's not in heat. It's not in heat at all. She's 20 years old, probably 21 now. And you know what? She's a typical female cat that she will lay in her she takes up a closet, right? So she lays in the closet. Victoria has it all set up in there. She's got a nice bed and she's all comfortable. And for about 20 hours or 22 hours a day, she lays in there and just sleeps and hangs out. And then she'll come out here and eat, and then she'll come out here and use the litter box. And it doesn't matter where in the house we are, she'll stand at the door here. She won't come out the bedroom door, but she'll stand at the door here and she'll scream just like that. And that is her saying, "Come pay attention to me." Hey guys, does this sound familiar to you? Any guys in here? Does this sound familiar to you? Right? So then, of course, Victoria will be sitting on the couch or we'll be doing that. She'll look at me and goes, "Your girlfriend's calling you." Okay. So up the stairs I go. Then you got to get on off because she's old, very old, and she's very fragile. Like you can't pick her up and just do. She doesn't want any of that. She just wants to sit there and let you love on her. Just she just wants to be petted. She wants to get all of this, and she purrs away. And when she is done, boop, she walks away from me, and she's basically like, "Okay, we're done. Fuck off. Go away." And that's pretty much what she's done. Right? That's pretty much what she's done. She's gone buggered off back up into her little I don't even know if you want it's not a kennel. It's basically it's a closet with a raised floor. And Victoria put like the bed and the blankets and all the shit in there that she really likes, and that's where she lives. I'm getting kind of, I mean, although it makes me a little concerned to think that, you know what, maybe when I get up into those senior years, what she's going to do to me. I'm a little worried about that, to tell you the truth. Anywho, I'm a bus driver. If I'm having a bad day at work, I'll look in the mirror while I'm driving and mutter to myself, "You're all cunts, aren't you?" And then tap the brakes twice so they all so they all nod. Putty cat, that is something absolutely a job that I could not do. I couldn't be a bus driver or like a transit bus driver, and for God's sakes, I could never, ever, 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 ever be a school bus driver. Are you crazy? I just couldn't do it. Is the cat in heat? No, buddy. The cat is not in heat. The cat is safe. She's all happy. She's all whatever. But being a bus driver, no, there'd be at the end of my on day one, at the end of my school route, by the time I was ready to drop the last kid off, or by the time I picked them all up, it wouldn't be dropping them off. It would be picking them all up, right? So by the time you've got the bus full and you arrive at school, if it holds 48 kids, there'd be 46 dead bodies laying in there because I couldn't do it. I'm not built like that. I'm not built for it. Really, I'm not. Oh, what the fuck am I looking at? Why am I getting that? Crag Rat, I just got a message from you saying that you weren't going to be in the chat. It just came up right now, and yet you're in the chat. I didn't want to die alone, so I became a bus driver. Well, that's a good way to look at it. I don't think I could do it. I think maybe I could be one of those guys that drives, say, like a Greyhound that goes, say, from Montreal, Toronto, out to Winnipeg, then to Calgary, then to Edmonton, like that. Because you don't have rowdy kids, you don't have a lot of that kind of shit going on. You've just got passengers that want to get from one place to the other, and they don't, it's fairly quiet and they're comfortable and they do their own thing back there. And you stop and let them out, and we're like cattle, and you water them and let them eat, and then you put them, pile them back on the bus, and away you go. I could probably do that, probably, but I don't think I want to. I don't think I want to. Yeah. Plus, you got to wear a uniform, right? I don't think I'm wearing a uniform anytime soon. Anyway, you know what? Hold on one second. I'll be right back. I sent it ages ago, but I'm in the hospital at the moment. But I've got time to chat now. Oh, okay. Well, when we come back, we'll find out. We'll find out what's ailing you today. I'm right here. Relax, old man. I don't know. Chicken Hawk. I used to go fucking 500 miles before I had to pop the cork, you know, years ago. Nowadays, holy crap, man. This is only my second coffee today. That's all I've had. I've had this coffee and I've had 2 sips out of this. And it's like, you know, it's like you're sitting here doing you got 20 seconds to get to the bathroom. You're going to piss yourself. I don't know. I think it's got to be age. Got to be old age. Just more tests, Stephanie. I'm sad. I'm sat here waiting to be released after another cardiac catheter procedure. Let us know when you get home. Let us know when you get home. So yeah, Chicken Hawk, you're older than I am, for Christ's sake. Smoke break, Chicken Hawk. No, I didn't have a smoke break. I wouldn't do that to you guys. I would not bugger off and run down, because I'd go downstairs out in the backyard or run downstairs and or go out the front porch and have a smoke. So I would not do that to you. I wouldn't leave you hanging here for 5 minutes while I went and had a smoke. Which in all reality, it would only be 3 minutes. So it's Dr. Pepper, not paper. Well, you know what? I'll probably drink if it was Dr. Pepper. If you had paper that tastes like Dr. Pepper, I'd probably eat it, dude. I'd probably eat it. He stood outside with 10 cigarettes in his mouth, lighting them all at once. No, but I do that in the morning. I get in the car, and it's not uncommon to get in the car. I'll pull 2, to take Victoria to work. Pull 2 out of the pack, put 1 in either side, and light them both, and then hand 1 to her. I do that all the time. It's a good hit on the first pull when you light 2 of them like that. It's like, you look like the dude from MythBusters. The dude, what, Adam? Adam from No, to look like Adam from MythBusters, I'd have to be wearing that. That's what you'd have to be wearing right there to look like the dude from MythBusters. Always got one good thing about doing lives and one trick is always have an extra hat handy. You never know when you're going to need it, right? Always have an extra hat, have a couple extra drinks, have a coffee, always have a pen, and have, a backup battery for your mouse. And if you're a woman, have a backup battery for your mouse. Yeah, there you go. You like that? So now I look like Adam, do I? Okay. Damn, this is crunk. What does crunk mean? I'm assuming that you mean that this is okay, or this is garbage. You choose whichever way. Either way you go with that, that's fine with me. It doesn't really matter. Chicken Hawk, what is it today? Today is Monday, so you are driving. Are you rolling right this moment? Where you going? What you doing? Who you doing it with? Oh, I started the live out, like I said yesterday. I started the live out with a topic, and I think we're gonna continue this topic, or this line. We're going to start out with a topic. Back years ago, I used to have 3 topics. I used to start the live with 3 topics, and I'd do 15 minutes on each topic on the live, and you guys would be chatting, and that's cool. You guys could chat and talk about what we're talking about, or whatever my topics were, and it worked well. And then after the 3 topics, I finished talking about 3 topics, we would open it up and talk about pretty much anything or whatever. I think we're going to kind of go back to that. I think we're going to kind of go back to doing the topic. I'm going to pick a topic. Excuse me. I'm going to pick a topic every single day. Either trucking or trucking related, or industry related. Doesn't have to necessarily be trucking, but industry related. and we're either going to I'm going to do a commentary and talk about it. You guys are welcome to pitch in and give me your thoughts and your ideas on what I'm talking about. Or you can just tell me to go fuck myself. Like, that's fine too. So we're going to kind of go back to that. So today is one of those days that I have one topic. We kind of already talked about it, and this is what we were doing. We were talking about making money. Now, all of a sudden, I just said that, so Chicken Hawk's ears just went. Ba-doink. You want to talk trucking? You want to talk money? You want to talk about making money in trucking? Chicken Hawk's the guy you probably want to talk to. Or he'd be a guy that you would want to sit around and talk with, and listen to, and because there's a lot of aspects to this business, the trucking business, and the business of trucking, both of which Mike is very experienced at. Like I said, he's been doing this longer than I have. He's been an owner operator, and not only is he an owner, it's not like he's leased onto a company. It's his truck, his trailer, his name, his authorities, these are his customers, right? He said, I'm sitting at a mushroom farm waiting to get loaded going back to Florida. That mushroom farm is his customer. He didn't pick that up off a load board. It's his customer. When he gets back down to Florida, he goes and he picks up where he picks up. I'm not going to say, but that's his customer. He's got his own. It's called direct freight. So if there's somebody that you want to talk to, and if you're coming into it, Chicken Hawk could probably be somebody you'd want to talk to. The problem is, myself included, I can't afford his rate to talk to him. His consultation fees are just absolutely ridiculous. I don't have enough money to feed him that much whiskey. So he works for booze. Chicken Hawk works for booze and booby shots. If you've got boobies and you want to get something out of Chicken Hawk, a quick booby shot, and Chicken Hawk will pay. It'll be happy to pay. I don't have a set of titties nice enough to show him, so I have to pay him in bourbon. Oh, so much respect I get here. Sorry, Crunch. Did you say do you remember me? Um, I can't say that I do, man. Honestly, if you've been around or if you've been here for a while, you haven't. You obviously haven't been here in a little while because over the last week or couple of weeks, I haven't really seen your name. But you got to remember, there's going to be probably 1,000 different names go through here today. By the time I'm done here, I've only been going for an hour and 45 minutes. Usually, we do these out at about 3 hours. So if I see 1,000 names, I may not catch every single one. Trucking with T-Bone. Someone say chickens. Dude, you still going with the chickens? Are you? I'd be curious to know how many chickens you're running right now. Do I read chats? Yeah, I do, to the best of my ability. But if you ask me a question and you're asking my opinion on something, and I give you my opinion and it takes 3 or 4 minutes, well, that's 3 or 4 minutes of chat that I'm not getting to, and that obviously you get behind in the chat, and then everybody gets all pissy going, he doesn't pay attention to the chats. Well, you know what? I'm in the middle of talking, just like I am now. I'm talking about what I'm talking about. I'm not necessarily looking at the chat. And then when I'm done and I've given you my opinion or whatever I'm talking about, then I go back to the chat and I mark it on here so I know where the last comment was that I made a comment on. So mushroom meaning mushrooms like shiitake or mushrooms like cool mushrooms? No, he's talking about shiitake mushrooms. Poor is the new rich. Well, it depends on what end of the scale you're at, dude. I know people that are fucking millionaires that are fucking broke, right? But I know people that are making 50 grand a year they're rich. So it's all in perspective and how you look at it and what you do with it and how you live your life. What Chicken Hawk has boobies? No, Chicken Hawk does not have boobies, but he sure likes them. I'm sat here in the hospital gown. It's getting drafty. Well, keep your boobies covered. Hey, fella, how you making out? 2-4? We're doing okay today, bro. How the hell are you? My consulting fee is $150 an hour, 8-hour minimum, but I'll give you some advice for free. Don't go into the trucking business. It sucks. There you go. Okay, live is over. Chicken Hawk has spoken. We are done for the day. It sucks. You know what? It doesn't suck. It's hard. And anything that's hard, you know, it's not, if it's not simple and it's easy, obviously it's hard. And anything that's hard, it means you're going to have to apply yourself. And if you apply yourself, that means you're going to have to work. And if you have to work, that means you're going to be tired and you're not going to have as much time or whatever. And if you're an owner operator or an independent, you are going to work even more than the average fucking owner operator does. And in Chicken Hawk's case, he says trucking sucks. Okay, he does, but I'm gonna just lightly ease. Chicken Hawk's a friend of mine, and I don't argue with him or disagree with him very often, but it can't suck that bad. Okay, he just put himself into a 26 W990, brand new, not too bad. Owns his own trailer, owns his home, owns an airplane. When he's not working or driving, he's in his airplane flying down to the Keys. And I can guarantee you, with 15 minutes after the wheels touch down in the Keys, he's probably well on his way to being intoxicated and having a good time. And then he comes back on his plane, gets back into his truck, and does it again for the following week. So does trucking suck? It can, depending on what your outlook is. But does Chicken Hawk's life suck? I don't know. It doesn't sound that bad to me, really. I don't know. Mike, you want to change places? Be right back. Nurse has come to release air from the balloon. Well, make sure she gets a good grip on your stick and releases something from that too. Is Chicken Hawk a female? No. Chicken Hawk is not a female. His woman, Special K, she's a female, but Chicken Hawk, not so much. Crunch, I have a confession. All right, confess away. Yep, all exotics. Shiitake, maitake, lion's head, portobello, all of them. Knock yourself out. I won't eat any of them. I won't eat a mushroom. I hate mushrooms. They're absolutely disgusting. I did have a bite of Victoria's Pizza the other day, or I finished out and a couple pieces of mushroom on it. I was able to choke that down. But eating mushrooms is not, you know, I actually, the only other time I will eat mushrooms, and it just has to be regular, everyday, run of the mill mushrooms, if they're sliced up very, very thin, and they're sauteed in like a garlic butter that I make. If I make my own garlic butter, I do that. Add a little onion, right? So you saute some onions and mushrooms and garlic butter, and maybe put them over top of like a New York steak or something. Okay, I might eat a mushroom there. But other than that, we're not doing that. Crunch, if that's what you did today, then you're doing it wrong. Sorry to tell you, brother. Sorry to tell you. If it's hurting, you're doing it wrong. Yeah, well, I bet a mushroom wouldn't eat you either. No, I don't imagine a mushroom would want to eat me, but with a name like Moisty, is the mushroom going to eat you? Or are you producing mushrooms? Who knows? I don't know. Oh, I think we're going to start bringing in guests. I think we're going to start bringing in guests. What do you think? Start bringing guests in and get some different opinions. Tell us, Crunch, get it off your chest. What did I do? No, you didn't do anything wrong as far as I. You want to tell everybody that you pleasured yourself twice today and it hurts? That's fine. Just don't expect us to feel sorry for you if it hurts. You're doing it wrong. Chicken Hawk, if you do it twice in one day to yourself, does it hurt? You might be a little tired, but does it hurt? I missed yesterday's live. I was out in a group ride, not my favorite riding style, but it was but I was obligated. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not a big mass riding. Like I have traveled in large groups, and I'm talking of guys, upwards of 45, 50, 55 bikes all in one. I've traveled like that. Not a fan of it, especially if you're in the mid to the mid front. Like you're not at the front, but you're not at the back either. If you're in the mid front, um, I'm not a fan of that. I kind of don't. I kind of like myself personally, 2-3 guys. Anything over 2-3 guys, I'm not a fan of. Tell us, Crunch, get it off your chest. What did I do wrong? Well, I don't know. What did you do wrong? You're the one hurting. Friction, too much friction. Lube, need more lube. Crunch, you said that you wanted to confess something. He did. Chicken Hockey confessed that he stroked out twice today and it hurting. Brian, that's a great idea. Have a guest on your show. Okay, Stephanie, I'm going to send you a link and you're going to come in, okay? And you can be the guest. You can be our guest. You're going to be our guest of honor tomorrow. And we're going to talk about Stephanie, we're going to talk about how I used to prepare meals, because you're always cooking something. You're always fucking cooking something or smoking like some kind of meat, or you're doing something on a Traeger, or you're doing something on the barbecue, or like you should have a goddamn cooking show is what you should have, Steph. So I'm going to go live tomorrow. I'm going to send you a link. You're going to come in and we're going to talk about how I used to prepare meals and go out on the road and take these meals out on the road. And we're going to talk about what you're making for you and your guy for dinner tonight, and how you're preparing your meals and what you're doing, and whether they're healthy, they're not healthy, and we can bang that around. Okay, that's what we're going to do. We'll do that tomorrow. We'll see if Stephanie. I'm not looking at the chat, so I don't know what she's saying, but we'll see if Stephanie wants to come on and maybe now, Stephanie, this is strictly for Chicken Hawk's pleasure. Okay, maybe we could get her in like an apron. Okay, you can wear a shirt under the apron, Steph. Make sure you're wearing a shirt under the apron. Okay, so wear a nice shirt or a t-shirt and wear your apron and get yourself all, that's strictly 100% just for Chicken Hawk's entertainment. And if you want to guarantee Chicken Hawk will be here tomorrow bright and early with bells on, tell them that Stephanie's going to be here up on the screen dressed in her what do you call it? I don't know, your cute little baking outfit, or your Crunch. We got to be respectful. Stephanie's a longtime viewer of ours, and she's always been very supportive of us, even though she's not a truck driver. She's not even in the trucking industry, but she hangs out, she chats, she has a good time. And you know what? You can't ask her to go topless. It would be very disrespectful. It'd be disrespectful for any woman to ask any woman to do that. So she can wear a shirt. Okay. Natural is good. Well, in my very humble opinion, Crunch, I enjoy natural as well, but I don't think Stephanie wants to do that, or Stephanie's husband has any interest in her showing up topless on a YouTube channel. And B, I really don't want my channel taken down, because as much as fun as it might be to look at, I can guarantee you right now that if she shows up topless on this channel, or any woman shows up topless on this channel, that I will not only take a strike, but they will pull the fucking channel. They will not only pull the live down and end the live, but they'll probably burn my channel down. You need to know how that works. Go ask Best. We can talk food or whatever you want. Oh, so you would love that. All right. Well, Steph, this is what you do. And anybody. Actually, I'm going to open this. I'm going to open this up to everybody. Okay, so Stephanie, 24 is already has my email, but same with you, Chicken Hawk. I'd love to chew your face off and talk trucking on here face to face with you, but I know you're busy and you're working. But send me an email at wheelburnerexpress@gmail.com. Send me an email, and I will pick random people at random. I will send you a link, and once you've got that link, all you need to do is follow the directions with that link, and we will bring you in. And Stephanie, if you want to talk about food, cooking styles, trucking, whatever, any of you, there you go. What's going on? What do you think the new law that passed that makes police pull over random trucks and question the driver if they know English or not? I don't know 100% if I don't know 100% if they are allowed to just pull you over and randomly check. I think what they're doing for the most part is as then the scale lights are on as you're coming through the scale, they're doing it there. Now, I don't know if they're just randomly pulling trucks over. If they are, I could be wrong. I don't know. Um, but I don't think they are. It wouldn't make sense. They do that in Florida. Okay. Okay. I'm good with that. Again, and I'm good with that. Like I just said, I gave you my opinion. I have no problem with it. Zero. I have no problem with it whatsoever. If they are pulling over random drivers to give them an English proficiency test, and if they can't pass that test, they're yanking them off the road. Great. No problem. In my career, I've seen way too many examples of exactly what we're talking about. Some guy in a truck, and I'm in a truck. I'm either beside him or behind him, or maybe even in front of him. And you're coming into a construction zone. Okay. And there's warning signs 2 miles fucking back, either lane shifts, this, that, you need to do this, detour, and you can't fucking read those signs. And next thing you know, you're bouncing road cones off the front of your truck because you don't know what to do and you don't know where you're supposed to be. Then you know what? I got no problem whatsoever with yanking these guys off the road if you can't pass an English test. United States or Canada, US or Canada. I got zero issue with that. I've seen too many near-death experiences, and I've seen too many end of the result where you're going through an accident zone, or you've been bypassed around an accident zone, and the result was that the guy didn't know how to read or write English. Or you're standing at the shipper, right? You're standing at a shipper, and the guy in front of you, the shipper, is saying, "Okay, I need you to do this." He's standing there in a pair of sandals, a pair of shorts, and he's about to go get loaded with flatbed, but he can't read the thing saying you must have hard hat, reflector vest, boots, long pants, and long shirt. He can't read that. He doesn't know. And then the shipper or the clerk or whatever it is giving direction as to, okay, this is where you go from here. I need you to go around the building. And then there's a secondary building, go around the back of that. You'll see something that says receiving door, hot coils only. And the guy's just sitting there going, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. He doesn't have a goddamn clue what he or she is saying to them. And then they go off, and next thing you know, an hour later they're back going, I don't, or the shipper's going, well, this guy was sent back here 3 hours ago, where the hell is he? That kind of thing. And then you think about this, the guy finally does get loaded with his load, and now he's out on the highway. Well, never mind me, Midwest men, never mind me but being out on the highway, with these guys that can't speak, read, write, or be proficient at all in English. Think about this, Midwest man, Chicken Hawk, Crunch, any of you guys that got wife and kids, never mind you. Do you want your wife or your children in the vehicle around that truck with the guy driving it that can't even speak or read or write or understand English? He can't understand a single road sign he's reading. He's following a GPS that he can't read the words on, but he's following a blue line, right? And as long as if the blue line turns right, he turns right. If it turns left, he turns left. Do you want your family around that? I don't. I've seen the end result of that way too many times. It's not something that I need to see again, and it's not something that I need to be involved in, and it's not something that I really want to have to worry about. So if the MTO or the DOT or the state troopers or the provincial police up here who take care of most of that kind of shit, if they want to step up and if they want to randomly pull somebody over just to make sure they can speak English, how about it? I got no problem with it. That's, in my opinion, that's my tax dollars well spent. And that's how I feel about it. And if you can't speak it, and you know what, your load's impounded, the truck gets towed, you call your company and they make arrangements for you to do whatever they need to do with you. They send down another driver to pick up the truck. They send up another truck to maybe recover the load, blah, 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 blah. But the end result, whatever the fines, the points, and the penalties, it gets paid. And maybe if enough of it gets paid and it hurts enough, companies will stop fucking doing this. Not just companies, but it's brokers, companies, owner operators, fleet owners, whatever. They'll stop doing this. We'll have no problem with this. I'm all for the new English proficiency law. I'll give them an earful. I got no problem. You want, again, even if you want to pull me over and give me an English test, I'm not saying I'll pass it as well as some people will, but at least I can talk English. I welcome anybody in the industry, but you need to speak English and have the skills to safely drive a truck. Chicken hawk, exactly. I don't begrudge anybody, right? Regardless of where you come from, right? In Canada, I think there's now more immigrants driving trucks in Canada than there are nationals that live here. And that's just population. That's just the way it's working out. Maybe in the US. I got no problem with any of these guys coming from India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, fucking Ukraine, Russia, whatever. We got them all. I got no issues whatsoever. If you can come over and you can first of all, go to school, and you have to speak and read and learn and do English while you're in school. Take the truck driving course, pass the course, take the written test with the ministry, pass that in English, and then pass just a general English proficiency test. I got no problem then handing you the keys to a truck and say, yeah, go to work, right? But the problem we have, especially in Canada, is, and I gave this example the other day, was simply this. I was renewing my license at the ministry, and it's all done by computer. So they say they pull the number, they call you up, they go, okay, they take your driver's license and they assign you to a desk. And there's like 20 desks with monitors sitting there with a little divider in between them, right in between each desk. And then you hit enter, you enter your name, and then your test comes up, and then you do all the tests. It's all done on computer. And so I did the test, and as I was doing the test, it's fine, no problem. I finished the test. I hit enter. It gives you instructions. Okay, go to this area and wait, and they'll call your name. So as I'm doing this, I'm walking behind a couple of the other guys, and one of them's doing their test in either Punjabi or Indian. It's not in English. I'm looking at the screen. It's not in English and it's not in French. It's in like an Asian language, and that's what they're taking their test in. And then there was another one, and I don't want to insult anybody, but whatever the language is, and it looks like there's scribbles, right? What's that, Islamic or I don't know. I don't want to insult anybody, but if that's what it was, that's what it is. And there's somebody else, I think 2 or 3 down from that was taking the test in that language. Now, how? And then when I got back to the counter, they finally called me back up. I had to ask the young girl behind the counter. I says, I just took my test. Thank you. I passed. Blah blah. But I noticed that there's a couple of guys over there. They took their test, and it wasn't in English. It wasn't in French. I said, how are they able to take a test in Canada to drive a motor vehicle, whether it be a truck or a car or a motorcycle in Canada, if they can't read or write? Why are they taking it in whatever language from whatever country they came from? And you know what her answer was to me? She rolled her eyes into the back of her head. I felt bad for her. She rolled her eyes in the back of her head, and she goes, when they come to the counter, they don't understand what I'm saying, and I can't understand them because they don't speak English. And she goes, I have no choice but to just take the test. If it passes, if they pass the test, I have to give them what they want. That's the ministry standard. I have no choice, and there's nothing I can do about that. And I felt bad for her because she felt bad having, given these guys licenses that weren't. She knew goddamn well that guy was going to leave that ministry office, go get into a vehicle that he wasn't qualified to fucking be in. So that's what's going on in Canada, that you can take your driver's written exam in whatever language. Well, again, going back to, let's say you're coming into a construction zone and you've got warnings 2 miles back, then you got a warning at 1.75 miles, then you get a warning at 1.5 miles, and every quarter mile all the way up to where the accident or to where the construction is, there's warning and written warning signs and all that kind of shit. And these guys can't read it. And then you look in your rearview mirror, and like I said, you're watching road cones going poing, 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 because this guy's just, next thing you know, you've got a problem. Why? Because they can't read and they can't write. the language, and they can't speak it. You know, if the DOT or you pulled into the scale and the scale guy and they want to say they bring you around back, and that's what it's called. They bring you around back and they're going to do a quick level 1 or a level 2 or a level 3 on you. And if these guys go back there and they, okay, I need a copy of your license, your registration, your insurance. I need your cab card. Basically, I need your cab card. I need a copy of your manifest, meaning your bills of lading and your customs and all that kind of shit. We need a copy of all that. I need to know where you picked up and where you're dropping off. And if you don't have a clue what I just said to you right there, how are you doing the job? First of all, how do you have any of that in order? And how are you doing the job? What I just said to you while sitting here looking at this stupid camera, I said it all to you in English, which is no different than what they're going to say to you when they're standing at your door. And if you can't understand a word that I said, how is it that you're driving a truck from fucking, Phoenix, Arizona to Miami, Florida without killing yourself, busting your equipment, or killing somebody else? I don't know, but they're doing it. It's happening. Many languages like scribbles, man, very hard to narrow down. Well, I'm just saying, that's what I saw. It looked like scribbles. I don't know what freaking language it was. It's hard to get a license and people like that. Well, believe it or not, it's not that hard to get a license in Canada. And here's what they also do. And I don't know if they're doing it in the US. They might be, they might not. Right? We got truck driving schools. It's now mandatory that you have to take a course to get your class A or your commercial license or your class 1 license, depending on where in the country you live, what province. But you have no choice. You have to take a course. So what's happening is these the Indians or the Pakistanis or again the Afghanis or whatever, they're opening their own opening their own schools. So now they're now an Indian guy or a Pakistani guy can go to that school, learn everything from somebody that speaks his language, and then go to the ministry, write the test in their language, and then come out onto the highway, get their license, come out on the highway and try to work in English. How does that work? If I turn to somebody that doesn't speak English and I says, you know what, you've got a leak, you've got a leak in your passenger side front airbag. Uh-huh. You don't have a clue what I just said to you. You'd get back in your truck and drive it away. You've got 2 flat tires. Uh-huh. What do you do? Right? What do you do about that? Team driving Indians with holes cut in the floorboards, nonstop poop hole. It happens. But circumcised honorary Jew, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. It's not just Indians, man. It is not just Indians. You want to blame them because it's the majority of when you hear stuff like that, it happens to be them, but it's not just them. Okay, there's other people doing it, other nationalities doing it as well, including our own. So you can't sit there and say it's just it's just the dirty immigrants doing it. It's not. Sorry. I've seen the result of that, right? I've seen, a really good friend of mine has a shop. The truck pulls in, it goes over the bay. Marty goes under the truck. He walks down under the bay. He's down there, and we were all standing at one of the bay doors, and all you hear is clang. Right? He dropped his fucking tools on the ground, and all you heard was, "Nope, F this, F that, not a chance. Get it out of here," because there was a hole in the floor and the entire drive line was just absolutely caked in shit. And it was, get your truck out of here, get it washed, and once it's washed and cleaned and everything like that, bring it back in and I'll work on it. But you don't bring a truck in that looks like that. I've seen the result of that. I really have. Could you drive in the UK? DOKs, I'm probably. I don't see why I couldn't. It would probably take me a little bit to get acclimatized to driving on the wrong side of the road. But could I do it? Probably. Yeah, that wouldn't be too hard. I noticed that a lot of the trucks over there, when I look at, say, Tyke Trucking, or I look at Pat, like the friends of mine that are over driving in Europe and in the UK, you guys aren't driving big trucks like the Kenworths. Like you guys are all driving cab overs, right? They're either single axle or some of them double axle, drives. Um, but the truck itself is not that long. And for the most part that I've seen, you guys are not ripping around downtown London with 53-foot trailers, right? You guys are probably what, got 40s and 48s. So, when you take a short little truck like that, like a Scania, and you put a 40-foot trailer or a 48-foot trailer on it, you've actually given me an advantage, because I'm used to being maxed out with truck and trailer length. I'm used to being somewhere around 78 to 80 feet long, right? You want to knock say 10 feet off of that and take me down to 70 feet. Fuck, man, I can spin that around in my living room, for crying out loud. They should have people who can translate for these people coming in trying to get a job and take a test and be told that you need to speak English fluently, understand. Here's the thing here, Steph. There should be a sign on the front door in English that says, if you can't read this sign, then you can't take a test. I'll guarantee you 9 out of 10 of them are going to walk right past that sign and come in and try to take the test because they can't read the sign, which is proving the point. Because they're lowering the rates, they got 4 drivers, sometimes 5 in one truck, and they all share the wages. It's fucking fury. But George, part of that is, and I agree with you, that does happen. George, it does happen 100%. I don't know if they're putting 4 or 5, but it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon to see 3. I've seen it done with 3 a lot, right? So there's 3 guys, and that truck basically runs 24 hours a day, and it never fucking stops. It stops for fuel. It's not uncommon. But you got to remember, George, the drivers are willing to take that chance, and those guys are willing to do that, because even if they split it 3 ways, they're making more money here than they ever made in their own country. It's like winning a fucking lottery, George. Right? It's like winning big time. It's big time money. Even if it equals out, let's just say the truck's making 75 cents. Whoever owns the truck is paying the driver 75 cents a mile, and they got to split that 3 ways. So that's 25 cents a mile each. If that truck never stops and it's running constantly like that, I'm telling you right now, that 25 cents a mile looks pretty goddamn good to a lot of these guys. Like, they're not thinking about the long run if that's how they're thinking. Exactly. Amazon delivery drivers pee and poop in a cup too, just to earn minimum wage. I don't know about that, man. Yeah, but if you say go back home, they understand you then. Well, why are you telling them to go back home? If they're here and they're here legally, they got a right to be here. And if they're not committing any crimes, then what's the problem with them being here? And when I say as long as they're abiding by the rules, that includes taking the English proficiency test. I think what you're talking about is every time people get pissed off with one, the first thing that comes out of our mouths, and it's very prejudicial, is just like, "Oh, fuck off and go back to your own country," because it hurts them and they know that. Don't think like that. It's the wrong way to think. I've never ever said to an immigrant, just because I'm having a disagreement, it could be a disagreement about anything. It could be I've never ever, as angry as I've been at some of these guys at times, I've never turned to one of them and go, "Oh, for fuck's sake, just go back to your own country." That's ignorant, man. That's ignorant. I seen something the other day that Alberta is doing something about the foreigners that are driving. Did you hear anything, George? I have not. I have not. I don't know what you could be talking about. Um, Alberta is doing something about the foreigners that are driving. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. What can you elaborate on that? I mean, when you say Alberta is doing something about the foreigners that are driving, what are they doing? They testing them for English? Are they testing them for driving skills? Are they testing them for herpes simplex 10? What? I don't know. Only for a year, Brian. Then you'll have to do a UK test. Well, that means I'd have to learn to read and write English, right? The roads in Europe are too small for North American trucks. Well, no, exactly, Chicken Hawk. But it would give guys like you and me an advantage driving around in a 45 or a 48-foot long vehicle, right? If your trailer was 40 feet, or let's say a 40, Chicken Hawk, remember before 53s came out, right? And the standard trailer was 48 feet long, right? And then all of the info, and before that, they were 42 or 40, right? So we went from 40-foot trailers to 42-foot trailers up to 48s, and then eventually up to 53s, right? And then at the time when trailers were 40 feet and 42 feet, or even to a degree up to the 40, up to the 40 48-foot mark, um, all of the infrastructure, and Chicken Hawk, I'm going to give you an example because you're up in that area all the time. Look at New York City, right? You run through Harlem, Queens, Bronx, Manhattan, Long Island. Okay. You can't make a right hand turn on any fucking intersection out there in any of those boroughs unless you stick the nose of your Kenworth into the oncoming traffic to make that right hand turn. Otherwise, you're going to run that lamp post or that electrical pole, and they got those great big fucking huge wooden ones, and they got them right on the corner. It's not like the newer infrastructure where they put all of the lamp posts and everything back on the sidewalk or beyond the other side of the sidewalk. They put those goddamn posts right on the corner. And if you didn't take oncoming traffic, you'd run that pole probably 3/4 the way down the side of your trailer, knock every light off it, take the hinges off, and your door would be laying on the ground. That's what the infrastructure was set up for back then. All the cities, the major cities, Chicago's guilty of it as well. Montreal, parts of Montreal, parts of Toronto, New York City, Newark, Jersey, Philly. You get into the downtown core in Philly. Chicken Hawk, you're in Philly. You're in there all the time. You know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. Those cities and those cores were all designed and built when we had smaller trailers. And now we're up to 53s, and now we're going to probably going up to what, 60s? Try to swing a 60-foot trailer through New York City. Good luck with that. And not be able to speak English on top of it. I'm not going to drop that. Chicken Hawk, we had American trucks here, but they're too heavy, so didn't really take off here. Yeah, but again, if you take an American or a Canadian driver and you stick me that's used to having 78 to 80 feet worth of length, and you put that into like a truck that's say 55 or 60 feet long, 70, even if it's 70, I'm getting the advantage on this. Well, it's really hard to abide by rules if they can't read English, though. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So make the point. Put the sign on the door in English and see what they say. Wait till one hits you on your motorcycle with no insurance. James, come on, man. I absolutely agree with you. It does happen. I'm sure it happens a lot, right? It happens a lot. Sorry. It does happen a lot. I've never had that happen. I've never had to deal with, an accident with somebody with no insurance. Um, I've been fortunate. All right, I've been fortunate. I know that in the U.S., a lot of places, or not a lot, but there are states in the U.S. where it's not mandatory to carry insurance. Maybe if you're a motor carrier, it is. But if you've just got your driver's license in your car and you've just got a motorcycle, it's not mandatory to carry insurance. In Canada, it is the law. It is the law. You have to be insured. You have to at least have the minimum basic, they call it PLPD. I'm not exactly sure what that stands for, but you gotta have PLPD insurance. And that is, that's the basic coverage. That's to cover damage that you do, or if you get into an accident, you damage somebody else's car, or if you kill somebody or whatever like that, it covers that. But it doesn't cover you, and it doesn't cover your vehicle. So your vehicle is written off. You could be written off. but at least the insurance will cover somebody else. So it's a safety that for anybody that can't afford of like big time insurance. At least it makes it mandatory that if you have an accident, whoever you're fucking hitting or whatever you're doing, at least the victim is covered with something. When 48-foot trailers, we thought that was long. Good thing I'm good at handling long things. Yeah, but do you remember what it was like running those around down and around the downtown cores of certain cities? Right? Again, like I said, you run the East Coast a lot, so you're in and out of Philly. You've done New York. I know you've done New York City. Those are two of the biggest bangers. Baltimore. Fuck, chicken. When was the last time you ran a 53 through Baltimore? And I don't mean like take the bypass around. I mean you had to go into downtown Baltimore, find a dock, find the receiver, hit the dock, back in off the street. Cars are fucking parked in every goddamn direction, stacked up on one on top of each other. You've got 9 inches off the nose of your truck. There's probably a fence, and you're trying to back into a dock. And by the time you get it backed in, your truck is on a 90-degree angle. The trailer is this way, the truck is this way, and there's enough room there for a fucking Toyota Tercel to maybe make it past you. Come on. How many times have you done that? Probably more times than you want to count. It has to do with the schools, I think, more than anything, that are reading English, speaking English. Well, George, that's true. I think you got to start somewhere. Where do you start with? So when they mandate it and they make it, it's been a law for years, right? It's been a law for years. They just haven't enforced it. Now they are. So where do you start? There has to be a starting point, right? So do you start at they got to get their, before they can go to school, they still have to take the written test. So if they can't pass that written test, they can't go to fucking school. So where do you start it? You start it with the ministry. Says, okay, you can't pass this test. I'm sorry. Go back and learn English and come back when you know English, and you can take the test again. And if you pass, then you can go to school. So and when you're in school, or do we start at the school level? Okay, give the guy his license, but while he's in school, he has to. Now you're putting the onus on the school to teach this guy English. Well, no, that's not what the school's there. They're there to teach you how to drive a truck, and they're only there to teach you the bare minimum, right? So where do you start? I think personally, you start at the ministry. It has to be at the ministry level. The minute I walk into the ministry as a 21-year-old man, whether I'm Indian, whatever country I come from, it doesn't matter. It always seems to be the fucking Indians, and it's not really fair to pick on them, but it just happens that's the one everybody always uses. But whether it be any immigrant that comes in, the minute you walk into that ministry, and if it's me, whatever, I walk into the ministry, the minute that I cannot proficiently communicate across the counter that I'm here to take my test, this is what I want my A or my class 1 commercial driver's license, and then they determine, and then you take a test, and if they say, oh, and I need to take my test in Punjabi, sorry, it has to be in English. And if you go, I can't read or write English, well, then that's the end of it. You politely tell them again, you know what? Go learn English and come back when we'll be more than happy to give you another test, but it's not going to be today. Yeah, I remember. Unfortunately, I had delivered Jessup, Maryland, New York City, and Philly last night. There you go. Drivers are dropping in the US. It's what it is, Victor. It's guys like me at my age. Remember, truck drivers used to drive, and they used to drive into their 60s, 65. Some of them would go into their 70s, right? And the truck drivers used to do that back, 10, 12, 15 years ago. That was normal for guys to be doing that. And then e-logs came in, and you saw, as soon as e-logs came in, you saw a bunch of guys at that term go, nope, not doing this. You're taking my paper logbooks away, and they got out. And then with over the last 10 years, say from 2015 until now, with all the new rules and regulations, all the bullshit that's come in, now at this end, Victor, the senior guys, being guys my age or even a little bit older, they're bailing out. They are absolutely bailing out of this industry. They're running for their lives. They're getting out because It's not worth the headache. It's not worth the hassle. It's not worth the fucking 70 hours a week. It's not worth the money they're making. And it's not worth the peace of mind that they're not getting while they're on the road. And you go to the opposite scale of that. The guys that are coming into the business to replace this are not coming in as fast. They're not the guys at this end that are bailing out are not being replaced as quickly as they're going out. They're going out faster than they're coming in. So they say there's a driver shortage. Yeah, there might be a little bit of a driver shortage. My thing is, it's not so much as there's a driver shortage. Yes, these guys are bailing out, and yes, there's not as many coming in, but the quality of the ones that are coming in. So let's just say, I'm just, again, these numbers, I'm making this up out of my head. These aren't real numbers. So let's just say 10,000 drivers retired and got out of trucking this year. 8,000 drivers came in the same period. So 10,000 went out, 8,000 came in. Out of that 8,000 drivers, how many of them, well, first of all, none of them are going to be of the quality of the guys that we lost. You can't replace a guy coming out of trucking school, can't replace a guy that's been driving for fucking 35 years. It just can't do that. But even let's just say that these guys are proficient, they're good, they passed their courses and they're good drivers. How many of them are coming in? You got 8,000 coming in. But if you look back in 90 days, 180 days, or even say a year, how many of those guys are still in the business? A lot of these guys are coming into the business. These new guys are coming into the business and they're not staying. Okay. They're coming into this business thinking that this is going to be hammered down. Let's go. I'm going to travel. I'm going to see the world. I'm going to fucking have fun. I got a great big truck. You know what? It doesn't fucking work out that way. 6 months later, they've got a pissed off wife. They've got bills coming out their ass. They haven't been to the cottage and in this year or whatever. They're missing their kids' recitals. They missed Thanksgiving. They missed their kid's birthday. They missed their wife's anniversary. All of that. And they go, nope, not doing this. And why would I? I can go fucking work at McDonald's for fucking $18 an hour and flip burgers. Right? Why would I? So it's yes, there's people going out. The quality of people coming in is not on par with what's going in. And the ones that do finally come in that are on par, that are good guys, they don't want the lifestyle. They don't want the life anymore. The trucking life is not, like I said, it's not a career. It is a lifestyle. It's not a job. It's not a career. I have a trucking career because I'm done. Right. But when I was trucking, I didn't have a trucking job. I lived a trucking lifestyle, because to live in a truck for 70 hours or more a week, even if you say, oh, I'm only, you work 70 hours a week, but if you're on the road for 5 weeks, you're literally in that truck for 5 weeks. Yes, you only work you work 70 hours that week, but you're going to do your 36 or your 34-hour reset. You're still in the truck. Some guys, occasionally, I'd grab a hotel room just to get out of the truck. Am I saying you're irreplaceable? Only in your eyes, buddy. Only in your eyes. Some guys would get a hotel. Every once in a while, I get a hotel just to get out of the goddamn truck, stretch my legs, sleep in a big king size bed with a TV and have 400 channels and order or have room service or whatever. That I would do. But the kids these days coming in here, they're thinking it's going to be all good time party. Let's have fun. And fucking 6 months later, they're pulling their hair out and going, I'm not doing this. This is work. This is work. Nobody works a 70-hour week, right? Not working, very few factory workers or auto workers or machine workers, and very few. I'm not saying none, but very few of these guys are working a 70-hour week. It doesn't matter who the carrier is, including Chicken Hockey's self-employed. He is his own carrier. If he was not doing what he was doing and he was just doing like everybody else and running the spot market and being out there running general freight, he'd be running his ass at 70 hours a fucking week. Not because he wants to, but because he's got to. I know a lot of newfies that can't read. Paul, I'm not saying it's just the immigrants. I'm not saying it's, the immigrants are select. It should apply to everybody. Everybody. Newfies too, I don't know what to say. it doesn't have to be a nationality thing. If there's, if you're from Newfoundland or Nova Scotia or PEI or New Brunswick and you can't read, write, and you're not proficient in English, how the hell you shouldn't have a driver's license driving a commercial vehicle. You should have a driver's license, period. Stick to bicycles. ICE and DOT have removed drivers not passing English. I know, I've seen it. Somebody put up a number the other day. I didn't know what the number was. Somebody put it up, but I think it was something like in the last couple of weeks or something. There's like 170 something thousand. Some of you guys were in here when that comment went up, but it was something like 176,000 176,000 drivers have been pulled off the road in the last couple of weeks. And good for that. Good for that. Just think about that. Let's just say that's the number. 176,000 drivers have been pulled off the road. Okay. Well, with the industry in the United States, there's 2.8 million truck drivers in the United States. So 176,000 of those got pulled off the road, and they're being scrutinized now, and they may not be able to come back to trucking because they can't read or write English. That's not a bad percentage. Somebody's working hard. You have a trucking career because of a third grade education. Paul, you're incorrect. I don't have a third grade education. I finished high school. I even went to college. What makes you think I have a third grade education? You're essential, Chicken Hawk. Well, again, only in Chicken Hawk's mind. The only trucking that is worth it is direct customer freight. Now, I can't disagree with this. The problem is that it's hard as one truck wonder to have to be a driver, salesman, mechanic, bookkeeper, and you need to know the math. No, and it is. But you know what, Mike? Again, you've been doing it for so long. You've been doing it for so long. It comes second nature to you. But it wasn't always easy when you were learning this shit, and maybe you had some mentors that were passing down useful information or willing to help you or anything like that. I was lucky. I had to fumble my way through the first couple of years too, but at least I had a couple of guys that I looked up to that were senior guys and driver guys, and they were willing to help me out and show me this or teach me that. Or if I made a mistake, they go, oh, okay, fuck, rookie, you're not going to do that again. But instead of doing that, maybe try this. You had to learn at some point, and that's how you got to that point. A lot of people don't get to that point. Fuck the spot market. I do. I absolutely agree with that. I wouldn't do it. I didn't run the last part of my career. I didn't run the spot market. I did not have anything to do with the spot market. I wanted no part of it. Just when I was starting to, when I saw the way that the brokers were going and the way the freight and the rates, and when some people made some mistakes, and I ended up with some insight to some of these and how some of these brokers operate when it comes to rates and what they're actually truly making. And then when you call in on the rate, if the load is posted at $2,000, and they're actually making so far, from the shipper, they're getting $3,200 for that load. They're posting it for $2,000 to see how many fucking suckers are going to come along and take it for $2,000. And then somebody like me is going to come in and go, well, no, I need $2,600 to do that load, or I need $2,800 to do that load. And then he'll come back to you and do oh, wow, man, that's not leaving a lot for me. I can probably get that up to about 2,100. No bullshit. You're just being greedy. And when I saw some of the back dealings of how that worked, it was just disgraceful. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't go back and fight it. You can't scream at these guys. There's no sense. There's no sense in doing something like that. Shout out for GSF. Okay. The industry I was in took a big hit, so I needed to change. There you go. You're right. There's a lot of new fees and can't read well, but they can read a road sign and they can't read a map and they can understand English. George, it's endless. For the rule to work, right? For the rule to work, you need to be able to read it, write it, and speak it. Okay. And understand it. If you can speak it, that means you can probably understand it. It doesn't work if you can just speak the language and understand and at least get by talking. It doesn't work. I don't know how many fucking road signs there are in Canada, the US, that are written in Indian or in Islam, whatever the language. I've never seen a road sign in Canada written in anything other than English or French. And if you're in Ontario or any of the other provinces, they're in English and French. If you go to Quebec, they're just in French because they're cunts. But, okay, but I've never seen it written in Punjabi. I've never seen it written in fucking, whatever other languages. So you need to be able to read it and understand what you're reading, write it, and be able to write back. So if I write you a message, you have to be able to write back in English that you understood my message and da da da. You need to be able to read it, write it, and you need to be able to fucking speak it. All three have to be covered. If any one of those three isn't covered, it does not work. Hello from Olds, Alberta. Preppers Paradise, Canada. Love the name, man. Nice name, dude. Hello from Olds. Well, dude, I'm sitting over in Strathmore. Throw your flag up, say hello. I'm in business 28 years now. Yeah, good on you, brother. Good on you. Still going strong. But here's the question I gotta ask you, Chicken Hawk. I know how old you are, and I don't expect you to say. That's fine. Keep that to yourself. You've been trucking, a few years longer than I have. You've been an owner operator in business for 28 years. Good on you. How much more have you got in you? And I'm asking you that only because of the conversations that we've had in the past, not on here, but just, in the past, how many more years, how much more do you have in you? Now, I'm assuming it's going to be at least 2 because you just parked a new W990 in your driveway. So how much longer do you want to do this? How much more do you have in you? Are you doing it now because there's still a desire or a drive or a fire that you're enjoying it, or is it just all about the fucking money? I think I know the answer to that. Good day, Greg. How the hell are you, man? A little late to the party there, Mr. Atchison, but you know what? You're welcome in here anytime, anyway. Good to see you, bro. Paul, in the early 90s, the UK was on fire from foot to mouth disease, so my industry got screwed over. So they became a driver. So I became a driver. There you go. Hey, Brian, I just started a pork shoulder for some tacos later. Hey, we're doing tacos tonight. We're doing it with bison. No, we did. Fuck, what am I talking about? We did tacos last night. I made tacos last night. We did it with bison. Stephanie, do it with bison. Oh my God, it was good. I'm telling you, there was 2 skinny people sitting on the couch with big fat bellies. We tacoed the shit out of ourselves last night. And for lunch today, taco salad, baby. Taco salad. So yeah, we can do tacos. We want to talk tacos? You can come in here right now, man. We can kill 8 hours right now talking about fucking tacos, Steph. Where the hell was I? Stephanie, you're cruel. Just got given an anorexic ham sandwich from a nurse. The sandwich was anorexic, or it's so small it's causing you to be anorexic. Oh, nice. You've never had bison. You'll love it. We don't use ground beef anymore. Okay. If anything that we're making that requires ground beef, like say we're making a meat sauce for lasagna or spaghetti or pasta or anything like that, bison. Tacos, no ground beef anymore, bison. Meatloaf, no ground beef anymore, bison. We are literally on a bison kick. Very, very easy to cook, seasons very, very well, not greasy at all. Even if you're cooking extra lean ground beef, depending on what you're making, you're still draining the oil out of that. I made those tacos last night. There was no oil. I did not have to drain a single drop of oil out of that. And the flavor is fantastic. It's very distinct, but it's not a strong flavor. It's not like you're going to sit there and go, oh no, it's It's distinct, but it's a really good, it's a really nice flavor. You trust me, you'll like it. Tell you what, jump in the car, head on up. If you can get here by say tomorrow night, I'll do a meatloaf or I'll do a lasagna. Okay, if you can get up here, we'll do a real nice big fucking meatloaf and lasagna. Victoria loves the bison meatloaf. She also loves the lasagnas and the pasta sauces with the bison. So not a problem. Get on up here and we'll cook. We'll start cooking. Proud American, trucking has changed. I understand safety and that some truckers were pushing themselves too hard. Well, Proud American, that's a very, very, very good point. Because of what they call safety, okay, and the very first instance or the very first example I will give, and it's the biggest example of what they were saying is we're going to make the trucking industry safer, is the e-logs. Okay. Now, the second part of what you said there fits into the e-logs. I've said this before, and I truly meant this, and I guarantee you, Mike, or sorry, Chicken Hawk, he can relate to this as well, maybe, because he didn't have to push as well so he doesn't have to push himself to say as hard as I did at times. But when the e-log came in and we started running the e-logs after all the old timers bailed out, I never worked so tired in my life. When I was on paper, like on paper logs, I never was tired. I was never tired. I never had to fight for time to take a break or to take a rest or to sleep, right? Yes, we could move our lines around here and there, but within reason and still within safety to keep everything safe. But I was never tired. The fact with an e-log, they said, well, it's going to force drivers to shut down, to take their 10-hour break, to take their 30-minute break. Or if you're driving Canada only, you don't have to take a 30-minute break. And you only have to shut down for 8 hours a night, right? We don't have to shut down for 8. We don't have to take a 30. And we're allowed to drive for 13 hours. But that was even on paper. But they brought the e-logs in, and they were saying that it was going to stop us and prevent us and force us to be rested and be well taken care of. And I'm telling you right now, Proud American, I was never so tired till the day I retired from trucking. I was never so tired as I was when running an e-log, because in the morning, okay, it's an e-log, it's an electronic device. Obviously, you know that. When you go on duty, okay, you're starting that clock. And once that clock starts, basically, like you said, that some truckers were pushing themselves too hard. Why are they pushing themselves so hard? Simply because when that clock is ticking, it doesn't fucking stop. Okay. Yes, it stops if you go off duty, but then what are you doing off duty? You're taking your 30-minute break, but then you got to go like a bat out of hell, because you're between your on duty and your drive time, you got to get all that in 14 hours. And you've got miles to cover, so you are tired, and the goddamn thing stop. And then when you run out of hours, even if you're not tired, let's say you're not tired, you run out of hours, you got to put that thing into a truck stop, go off duty or go into the sleeper, and you've got to spend 10 hours in the bunk. Well, let's just say for 10 hours, out of that 10 hours, well, I'm not ready to go to bed yet. I'm going to lay in bed, or I'm going to sit around. I'm going to look at my phone. I might go for a walk, 3, 4, 5 hours. And then when I'm finally tired, let's just say I've parked at 6 o'clock at night, but I don't fall asleep until say 11, right? But at 4 a.m., that goddamn thing's going ding. Now I'm tired. Right? I haven't had enough sleep, but I've got appointments to make. I've got appointments to keep. I've got schedule to do. And I know that once I start that 10-hour clock, or once I start that e-log clock again, I'm racing. You are constantly. And here's the other thing. Proud American, I don't know how many times in a day I'd be driving along, hand out the window, blah, but I'm always doing this, looking over at that clock, 20 minutes later, looking over at that goddamn clock. I looked down because mine was on an iPad mounted off the side of my dash. I don't know how many times a day I would look at that, and then I'm doing the mental math in my fucking head. Okay, I've got this many miles. This is how far I got to go. I got to go through these cities, so I got to calculate slowing down. And I'm doing all of this mental math, and I'm distracted and going absolutely crazy. When I was on paper, I never had to do that ever. Venison meatloaf sandwiches tonight for my household. I'd be all over that. Midwest man. I'd be all over that. And now I'm putting the customer that terminated my service out of business. Well, you don't cross chicken hawk. Those bastards are going down. I've got pheasant breast in the fridge for tonight. You know what? I can't sit there and say that I've done a whole lot of eaten a whole lot of pheasant because I haven't. I think I've tried it. Like, I'm 55. At some point, I've probably tried it. I don't actively remember. Mind you, fuck, it was amazing that I remembered that I had tacos for dinner last night. I thought I was having them tonight, but I already had them last night. So, how the hell I remembered that is I don't know. My shoes are on the right feet, just in case any of you guys want to know. You're curious. But I do the venison for sure. The pheasant, I don't know. I'd try it. I can't remember if I liked it or not, so I definitely try it. Going to destroy the company they paid $10 million for. I have to truck another 3 years, Brian. Unfortunately, I don't have enough money to support my lifestyle and not work. You know what? So you got to do what you got to do. But I think that was part of the question. The second part of the question, Mike, is simply this: you're doing it because you have to, not because you want to? So you don't have, like, what you and I have spoken about before is back in the day where we had that fire and that drive, and we threw the curtains open, started that fucking engine, and we tore off down the highway, and we had a great time, and we loved doing it. Trucking was the end all be all to our world. You don't have that anymore. Or maybe you do. I'm asking, do you still have that fire and drive? Or is it now you're at the point now after 38 years, it's like, fuck it, 3 more years, pile the cash up, and then I'm hitting the exit door. Is that where you're at? I ran tachographs, got out when digital cards came out. We don't have any of that. I know that Cragrad, I know I've seen, I was talking with my buddy Pat, who was in here earlier. He's over in Germany, and they've got the card. So they take the card and they plug, it just plugs right into the truck. There's no e-log, there's no separate device. It just plugs right into the truck. And then, everything in the truck, it runs the e-log or runs the device and everything like that. So I think that's kind of cool. Your mom calls me a good boy at night. Binkin, let me tell you something. If you were banging my mother, you wouldn't be here fucking talking to me about it. You'd still be in the hospital with both your legs in fucking traction, your back fucked up, your eyes crossed, and most of your teeth knocked out of your fucking mouth. So, yeah, try again. If I come to the you, Brian, I'll get a couple of brace of pheasant. I wrap the breast. Okay. I think that ham sandwich had something else in it. I think you're trying to say, if you come to the UK, I'll get a couple of breasts of pheasant. I'll wrap the breast in sausage, meat, bacon, and pastry. You know what? I got no problem with that. I'd eat that. Cragrad, I'd eat that. I agree. The e-logs have created a whole new level of stress. They wonder why no one wants to be trucking anymore. Well, then Proud American, the next one after that was they put the dash cams in. Okay. I got no problem. You're banging a corpse then, Binkin. That looks good on you. I got no problem with them putting the dash cams in. Okay, none. The dash cams have saved truck drivers. I don't know how many of us have had fucking, near-death experiences fucking running into something because somebody else is doing something stupid. And if you hit them, you're to blame automatically. So the dash cam has gotten a lot of truck drivers off the hook, right? It's gotten them off the hook. It's like, okay, the driver wasn't responsible. This guy's being a dick, brake checking him, right? It's also cut down on insurance scams. But Proud American, it was when they had the inward facing cameras. Okay. The inward facing cameras and the invasion to my privacy. I own the truck. I own everything in that truck. I live in that truck. If I'm in that truck for 2-3 weeks at a time, that's my home, right? That's my home. You have no more right to looking in my home, in my truck, as you do to come here and set up cameras in my house and look inside my fucking house. That's where I live. I change my clothes. That's where I sleep. That's basically, it's my home. My shoes come off at the front door, and then I put my slippers on. I go into my house. You don't have the right to invade my privacy like that. And they're trying to say, well, it's for insurance reasons because they want to see what your head is doing, where your eyes are at the time of the accident. That's all fine and dandy. And then they tried to tell us that, when the truck turns off, when you go off duty and that truck turns off, the camera turns off too. Well, that's bullshit too. I happen to know only because a company that I was working at, the health and safety guy who monitored all of this shit, I was walking down the hallway one time and this guy goes, "Hey, Brian, come here, check this out." Okay. And I was in there and he's standing there. We had a lady driver and he was standing there. Oh, it was on the screen. We're sitting there watching and she's standing there undressing. She's getting undressed. She was getting ready for bed. She was getting undressed and then she was getting, redressed. And I looked at him. I said, "Mark, what are you doing? You can't be looking at this." "Oh, well, I said, and then I said to him, I said, "You're not supposed to be able to see this. These things are supposed to turn." "No, no, no, no. We can see this. We can turn them off. We can turn them on. We can do this." I lost my shit. I came right fucking unglued. So when the inward facing cameras came in, absolutely no, I want no part of that. And I actually left. I left a company because of it. I won't have an inward facing camera looking at me. And I don't give a flying fuck if you tell me, well, when the truck turns off after 5 minutes, it stops working. Bullshit. I know of two different Big Road does it. They can peek in on you. And what's the other one? The last one I was trucking, whatever. I know that they can look in on you at any time they want. Anytime they want. So I have nothing to do with inward facing cameras. But that's just talking about adding to your stress level. Proud American, you want to talk about stress level, you add an E-log and a fucking inward facing dash cam, right? And then when the inward facing dash cam did come in and I had to deal with it for the first probably 2 weeks or 3 weeks before I said fuck this and left. I was getting phone calls every second or third day from health and safety from these people going, "Well, we've got you for distracted driving." Well, why? Well, because your hands are on the wheel and you're driving, but then you reached over and you touched your phone. Well, no bullshit, I did. My phone's mounted here, but the stereo is right here. The camera is not looking on the dash. You can't tell what I'm looking at. It's following my eyes. Well, my eyes went like this. I turned this, either went like this or I changed the station. I wasn't fucking around on my phone. And I was having to continuously fight. And I just finally said enough. It's not worth it to me. That, and on top of, okay, you know what? You're showing me that there's a girl undressing. I'm out. I want no fucking part of this. There's fucking lawsuits piling. And just so you know, that girl was informed that they were watching her. Did I blow the whistle? Maybe I did. Did I call her and tell her? No, I didn't. But she found out a roundabout way that people in the office were sitting there getting their fucking jollies watching her. It's the same in construction business. It is. And it's video and audio. And that's the other thing that really irritates the shit out of me, because even if they've got the inward facing camera turned off, there's a microphone on there and it's listening to every fucking word you say. Absolutely every word you say. Nothing you can do about that. So what do? Take a piece of bubble gum. It's on most of the dash cams, right? Most of the dash cams, the dash cam itself is no bigger than, usually like a pack of cigarettes, right? A regular pack of cigarettes. So on most of them, down at the bottom, down here on there's a very small pinhole. It's like about the same size pinhole is when you've got an electronic device where you can take the little thing and you can touch it and put it in the hole and it resets your device. It's a little pinhole. It's either on the left or the right, but it's usually at the bottom, and that's a microphone. And it's very sensitive. It picks up everything. I mean, if you fart, they smell it. So I wanted no part of that. Absolutely none. I have no problem with the outward facing camera. And I would take, I did. I took bubble gum. I took a piece of gum, boop, over that fucking microphone. Never had anybody say anything to me, but I want no part of that. You don't have the right to look in my truck. I got into a really big argument because they were talking about the insurance, and it's their right, it's their authority, their name is on the door, and this and that, and it was a good portion of part of this is during COVID when all the dispatchers were all working from home, so were the owners, and so was companies, and like all the staff, everybody was working from home, and I stood there in front of a group of these people. We were doing a big video. What do you call it? A Zoom. It was a big Zoom thing. And I said to all of them, I said, okay, I tell you what, if you guys got the right to look in my truck and watch what I'm doing, I tell you what, during work hours, I want the company to send people to your house and wherever you're designated your workstation. So if it's at your kitchen table, your dining room table, or if you have an office at home, we're going to put cameras up in your house and they're going to watch you work while you're sitting there working for 8, 10 or whatever hours a day. There was silence. It was like crickets chirping. Everybody shut the fuck up because they're certainly not they want no part of that. You can't do that. That's my home. I bought that home. I live in that home. I'm only home here because of COVID, and that's why I have no choice but to be here. Well, if you're here, well, I live in my truck. It's my home. I'm only here not because of COVID, but because how I make my living. It's the same process. Once you get past the steering wheel, which is the business part of the office, that's the office part of the truck. Everything else is my domicile, man. That's my home. You don't have any right to be in there at all. Period. I'm banging. You bad habit. I'm working on it. You need to work harder. Okay, it's the same in construction business. Yeah. Hello there. How you doing, Mark V? Man, I'm just winding this down. Just getting ready to wind this down. Duct tape is your friend with dash cams, but you can't. You can't. And I did that right in the beginning. I did that. I took a piece of electric tape and just put it over the inward facing camera. 90 seconds, Crag Rat. Within 90 seconds, my phone rang. You need to take whatever you've got on there. It sets off an alarm back at the office. They know you've done it. So you have no choice but to take it off. So, being the asshole that I was, I wasn't going down quietly. Okay. So I got this picture. It was about the size of a postcard of a donkey fucking some guy. And I put it on a hanger and did the thing with the coat hanger. Jeremy did it as well. And we put it right there. So it wasn't taped to the camera, but as the camera was looking, all it was seeing was that. And so I hung that for a day. It took them about 3 or 4 hours to figure out what the fuck they were looking at. And I got written up for that one. But you know what? I wasn't going down quietly. If you're gonna look in my truck, I'm gonna make you look at some of the most disgusting shit you've ever fucking seen. And I tried. Then they threatened to fire me and blah 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 blah. I quit anyway. E-logs are stressful when I'm getting close to the end of my day. So there's a parking. Oh, dude, how many times, Mark, are you sitting at the top of that on-ramp or off-ramp? You've come off the fucking highway. The truck stop is all you got to do is make a left-hand turn, go back over the highway and make a right-hand turn into the truck stop. And you're looking at that little red circle because you're now red, right? That gives the circle turns, or actually it turns yellow when you're getting close to violation, right? So, and you know that you've got 2 minutes. 2 fucking minutes. Okay, so that light turns, you gun it like a mother, and you get into that truck stop. And the first thing you do when you get into that truck stop is you stop, even if it's in the driveway, and you go off duty. And then you have no choice but to fucking basically put your truck in first gear and idle your way through, the truck stop, because you can, in most cases, you can't go. Once you go over 5 miles an hour, it'll kick you back into driving, right? So you've got maybe a minute worth of driving time left, a minute worth of on-duty time left, and you have to just go like this and put around, and everybody knows what you're doing. When I see somebody doing that, I know what they're doing. I don't get pissed off at them. I've been in the same boat. I've got exactly 90 seconds to make it into that truck stop and try to find a parking spot, right? What can you do? That's all you can do. You put it into off duty and you put, and then, like I said, I've done it. I know when other people are doing it. I understand what you're doing. That's another stress. You are stressed until the minute you get that fucking truck parked and you go, you pull those brakes, then you can maybe relax for a few minutes. But do you need, if you were on paper, would that be an issue? Would that be an issue? Even if you ran a perfectly legal paper logbook every single day, if at the end of your day you went 5 minutes over your fucking time because you had to wait to get into the truck stop, or you had to maneuver, or you were waiting, how many times are you some rookies trying to back into a spot and it takes them 10 minutes and you're sitting there, but is that a problem with paper? No, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have somebody soon. If that circle turns red and you go into violation, I get ELD crawl exactly. If that circle turns red and you go into violation, goddamn well, Bobby, fucking safety guy is calling you the next morning. What the fuck's going on? And there's no excuse that's good enough. Well, you should have planned better. Whatever. Suck my dick. I told my boss, what's that? I told my boss, I'm not doing e-log, otherwise I'm bailing. Um, if you've got that option and you can do that, do that. A lot of people don't have the option to do that. Oh, I'm just going to bail, because everybody's doing it now, right? Everybody's doing it now. Recording workers is an insult to dignity. I absolutely, I 100% agree with that. Right? It is your dignity. It is your privacy. It is absolutely, it's everything of who you are. You don't have the right to watch me in my private time. I am off duty. I am no longer on your time. I am on my time. It's my personal time. You don't have that right. And I know that the day is coming where they're going to knock that shit off, because there's already been several cases out east, where a couple of East Coasters have taken it to fucking the provincial level court and they won. Right? You can't put inward facing cameras in and invade these people's privacy, especially women. Now what they've got is, for example, the company that I was working just for, they had inward facing cameras, but they didn't work, right? Or they claimed that they were turned off. But the camera also came with a special clip that you put on and it blacked out the camera, right? I got no problem with that. If you're going to allow me, for example, to go off duty, and once I go off duty and I'm parked and say I'm sitting at my little table set in the back, and I'm eating my dinner, and if I put something over that camera lens and you fucking call me telling me there's something over that camera lens, you're going to get a big fuck off. I'm off duty and you're bothering me on my off duty time. I'm not answering the phone. Fuck off. But they still do. They considered that because I went down that road as well. As soon as I put something over that camera and blocked that camera, regardless of whether the next morning, as soon as I went on duty, I took the fucking piece of tape off. No, you don't need to see what's going on with that fucking inward camera at all. I pissed on this channel. Wow, that was a long piss. Best thing is to get an old truck later without computer and rebuild it. I did that. Newark, I did that. That's what I finally had enough, and I went and bought a 96 W9 with the 60 series mechanical engine. You couldn't even plug an e-log into it, right? And because I came in at the time before more rules and regulations came in, I was e-log exempt. I didn't have to worry about it. I was able to run paper. We need stronger workers' rights to reduce our tension at work. But who are you gonna get to fight for that right? You guys like me or guys like you? It's already been tried. In order to fight that fight, you need mass. And the last time we fought that fight was at the convoy, and we still fucking lost. We had an entire country, and for that matter, we had an entire fucking world behind us, and we still lost that battle. So how do you do that? I'm not saying it can't be done. Okay. I'm not saying it can't be done. And I agree. That's what I agree with partly. We agree with you. That's what we need. Give me an idea of how you think it can be done. Better labor representation, third party. That's union. And the union's already in the trucking business. I won't drive for a union company. How's business treating you? Neon, I retired. That's how well it was treating me. I made my money. I did my time, and I got the fuck out of trucking. I retired from trucking. I'm done. Are sturdy? How long? I'm no longer. I'm done. And if a driver does get a violation of their e-log, DOT can access it up to the last 8 days. Maybe I think in the US they can access it up to 14 days, and I think in Canada it's 7 days. I think I'm pretty. I know that there's 14 days in the US. Looking like David Letterman. I tell you what, man, I'll take part of his paycheck. I don't know. No, I may not look like. I may look like him, but fuck, I'll take his paycheck. Give me his paycheck all day long. I'll take that. Happy retirement. And thank you, Neon. I'm looking at other things just to keep myself busy. I'm gonna probably look to I've already got some shit on the side that I do, but I'm kind of looking maybe something to keep myself busy through the winter. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know. I might go OnlyFans. I don't know. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. You never know. With me, you just never know. Anyway, you know what? I'm hungry. I haven't eaten yet today. I'm hungry as hell. What time is it? It's 11:15 my time. So my girl's probably getting hungry too. She's been at work since 6:30 this morning, and I'm gonna go make lunch, and I'm gonna go eat lunch with my girl. So Steph, send me an email. We'll do a cooking show one day. So anyway, yeah, Mark, talk to you later. Thanks for being here. Everybody that came in today, thanks, man. You guys had some good comments. We had a good conversation. Again, we did a lot of talking about trucking today, and I love it. And if you're intrigued by it, or you want to know more about it, or if you just like some of the stories that you hear, hey man, subscribe to the channel. We're gonna do more of this. We've kind of gotten away from it. We're gonna kind of bring it slowly back. We're gonna bring it back, and we're gonna get back to doing some talk. As soon as my mouth starts working, we're going to get back to doing some trucking talk and shit like that. So, you know what, man? But anyway, I've been at this, 3 hours and 8 minutes. I'm hungry. I need a drink. I need a smoke. And I'm old. I can't, I don't want to work that much. So anyway, 24 of yous in here. All of yous hit the like button. Hit that goddamn like button, would you? I swear to God, you're killing me. Hit the fucking like button. I would appreciate that. I don't ask you for subs, and I don't ask you for money. As you can see going across the top of the screen, we do not beg for money. I don't want your money. All I want out of you is a like or a dislike. Hit the thumbs down if you want to. I'm good with that too. Leave us a chat in the comment. Go back if you're watching the replay. You got something to say, leave a comment. I'll usually get back to you over the next 3 years or 3 to 5 years. I'll get back to you. And with that, guys, man, you guys have a really good Monday. Hopefully we got you started. You're having a good Monday. Your Monday ends. All of you guys that are driving, man, keep it between the lines. God bless you. You guys are still the backbone of Canada and the United States. I wouldn't be sitting here doing what I'm doing if the truck drivers, if you guys weren't still out there fucking banging out 70 hours a week and trying to hit that 3,000 mile mark. I couldn't do this and sit at home comfortably if you guys weren't out there working. Nobody could. So for that, I thank you guys. All right. Talk to you later.